That's the screaming fish one. There's the crackhead one, which I love.
Yes, I must find the others.
Alright, so we are live.
Oh.
Hey.
Here's what they're supposed to look like.
Is it a picture of my face?
This is what we're supposed to look like, yes.
Those look normal.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
look normal. Too
Yeah.
bad you don't let them stay normal.
So
Oh.
you don't ever find the heads of the bottom two or the bodies of the top two.
Bye.
Gotcha.
I'm an idiot and forgot my dice. I'll be right back.
Oh, you're not
Alright,
done.
now we can
That's-
show Nick all of these wonderful creatures.
See, that's a shame because I really want to see the head of Arctimosa on a body of Velozolt.
See,
That's what I want.
the
Well,
swap version is the crackhead.
So here's Draco's ult.
Oh, bless.
also, all of their Pokedex descriptions are about how they suck at living.
Mhm.
Oh, it's so relatable.
Here's
Oh my God.
Arcta's ult.
Whoa.
That's the crackhead. He's my favorite.
Yeah,
He's cold.
He's got
That's
a
not
little.
crack. He's cold.
He's shivering all the time. Crackheads.
Yeah.
No.
I work in a
If you're
value village.
shivering,
I think I know what a
it's
crackhead
crack.
looks like.
We're live, just so you know.
I think I know what I'm talking about,
Is
sweetie.
she lying?
And here's Arctavish.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's the most normal one, I think.
None of them are
Yeah.
quite normal, but I guess this is the most normal one.
The most normal. Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
technically two fish, so it kind of works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas Dracovish is like the head of a fish, but on the tail. Did you notice that? It's on the tail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, I love it.
Dracofish is the Kyle of the fossils.
Oh god, you're fucking right, and I hate it.
Rams into Poke Center. Where's the monster?
Yeah, no, he's awful, and I love him. His
To be-
fucking special move he gets.
To be fair, his
Ridiculous.
Dracovish's dex entry is very Kyle.
Totes fair, I think.
Anyway, this is our new mascot.
Which
What
one?
is?
Oh, that one. Yeah. Okay.
This one.
The great Kyle.
The Kyle Vish.
Kyle Oh man.
Huh?
That's what I'm naming mine. Mostly because I was challenged by a coworker to fight him this next Sunday at our Christmas party, but also because my coworker, who is my immediate buddy, his name is Kyle.
just bring Ubers and you'll win.
No,
On a
he's
scale
not
of 1
even.
to...
He's not even
go
like.
on.
Sorry, he's not even like IV breeding, so I think I'm fine.
And you have to crush him completely.
Oh, I know, I will.
You must utterly destroy any hope he has by bringing all of the cheap Pokemon.
Yeah, no, I'm doing a rain team and I'm doing a hail team.
I see. I suppose if you bring the Vish, it will work.
Yeah, the fish is gonna be on the rain team.
just bring 6 fish. Just bring 6 of this thing and
No,
you'll
but
win.
see what you do is you start out with Ninjask, right? And you give it a focus sash, and then you have it protect the first turn, and then the next turn you use sword stance, and then you protect again, and then you baton pass.
Obviously.
Or you could bring, but you need to bring 6 of these to scare him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just bring an entire team of this.
One of my battle boxes will just be filled.
What is this thing?
On a scale of 1 to Kyle, how Kyle is Kyle?
I think the answer can only be Kyle.
So Kyle's not the one I'm battling.
Okay.
That's Andre. But on a scale of 1 to Kyle, Kyle's like at least an 8.
Okay.
Like,
Not quite
It's
enough
there.
to be a true Kyle, but it's pretty up there.
yeah, no, he's a little too nerdy to be a true Kyle, but he's still pretty up there.
So he's pounding
Okay.
Red Bulls
He's-
instead of monsters.
He's Kyle adjacent.
Yeah, he plays way too many like anime video games to be an actual Kyle.
Ah, Kyle
But he
Light,
still
got
pounds.
ya.
Yes, but he's still named Kyle and pounds monsters. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's all you need, really.
Yeah, it's like 90% of it at least. Okay, so last time on this thing that we play, I don't even know.
We made a blood oath
Yeah,
and then passed out.
yes, you gave so much blood that you passed out, except not really. You didn't give much blood at all, but you still passed out because you're pansies.
Oh.
Yeah, you're only level 7, 8, 8? You're only level 8. Meh.
Only.
Also, Wartok had a very bad mental health day.
Yes.
Only yes.
Not really everybody did, but kinda everybody did. But Wartok especially.
Yeah, nobody's day was particularly good,
No.
but Wartok's is still having a little bit of a breakdown. So
Took the cake, by which I mean lost all of the cake. Got no cake, none cake.
Yep.
But yes, so you completed the floor of the soul, dealing with a few personal trials while fighting a literal tank. So that was fun. And at the end of said battle, and after having each of you seen a scene of some personal triumph in the future to come, were brought together with these 4 shards of a soulstone. And into them you poured magical energy, and over their reassembled husk you gave a bit of your own essence to empower this stone. And in doing so, passed out, and when you awoke, Travian was there, and told you that you had created the first soulstone since the scouring. They themselves have been unable to do it for quite a long time. So, Siegebreakers, what would you like to do?
I hate that I created this.
I want to die now.
this is your fault.
Yep,
It
it sure
is.
is.
Too bad this is the last of that bottle, otherwise. Okay. So we're like having like apple juice and like Keebler elf crackers right now after
Pretty much, yeah.
right?
Yeah, he brought you all some food. There's plenty of water. There is wine as well. There's crackers, there's meat, there's noticeably no dairy, but several other, basic food groups.
Why is there no dairy?
They're all lactose intolerant.
Oh, they probably don't have any livestock.
Do you ask that out loud?
Yeah, sure.
He says, "Oh
Leans
no,
in and
it's
whispers. They're probably lactose intolerant.
Oh.
no, the process of creating a soulstone doesn't tend to do much for one's digestive tract, and so dairy tends to be a little on the back end. You don't really want to intake too much of that."
So we're lactose intolerant.
Okay, out
should
of
I not
character,
have eaten
Matt,
all of
I
that
just can't
taffy?
believe that you really gave an in-game, like, lore reason to, like, as to why we would get this shit.
I love it.
That is some very key attention to detail that I was not expecting, and color me impressed.
World building.
Diarrhea! Yay!
It's not so much that you will get the shits, it's that you might if you do take more dairy in now. This is just...
It's a con save.
Yes.
Dang it.
It's fine.
He's preventing you from having to make a con save.
It's
Good
fine.
man. Good man.
Yeah. Let's eat up and regain our strength, I guess.
Indeed. There remains but one thing, and that is to use the Soulstone to open the Reliquary, wherein rests the relic weapon. You can take your time, though. You needn't do it right away.
Cool.
Actually, what's Kayana, you have the highest passive perception, right? What is it? 18?
Probably 18.
I think
18,
that's-
yes.
Yeah. Travian is not the only Ulvari in the room with you.
Huh?
There's a couple of others kind of off in the corners of the room, just sort of observing. As he sees you kind of glance over towards them, he says, "Oh, not to worry. They're taking notes, you might say. As this is the first time a Soulstone has been created since the Scouring, we are hoping to see what the recovery process is like, especially for those outside of our sphere.
I suppose that makes sense.
See, none of us have successfully been able to create one, as I said. And, well, the few who tried either did not make it, or very nearly did not. And so, it's the first data point we have as a point of comparison. You're certainly doing better than they are.
I immediately start thinking back to that little cabin in the snow with the skeleton holding the stone, and I'm just like, oh shit.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. A little bit awkward, but cool.
Well, it's what we have.
Yeah.
So, I will leave you to it for now. They will stay in here and continue monitoring you. Don't worry, if anything goes awry, if you begin feeling ill, you can just call out and we'll do what we can. It shouldn't be too hard on you. You've been outside of this place for your entire lives, so you shouldn't be as susceptible as we are. Now, take your rest. I'll return in a few hours.
Sorry. Help, Dravian, we have to poop really.
Make sure y'all get in your notes that Butter's gonna wreck us now.
It's not permanent.
Sorry. Just gotta get my toilet humor out of the way because I'm terrible.
That's okay. So is there
Literal
anything you all
toilet
would like
humor.
to do other than just like rest up?
Oh, we should probably tell each other about those visions we had in the banishment place.
The void.
Yes, the void. How is Jeff looking?
Yeah, how's Jeff doing?
Jeff's fine. He has a slightly furrowed expression as he's wondering if he'll still be able to eat pie or not, but otherwise he's doing okay.
Jeff is so
Oh,
closely
man.
teetering on the edge of himbo.
What do you mean teetering on the edge?
Harley, why do you think I'm dating Ethan?
Wow!
Oh man.
Alright, that was part of the game. We peaked
3
tonight.
points of
Yep.
burn damage.
It's okay. Viewers, you guys can leave now. Nothing's gonna be better than that.
Shit.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good night. We love you. Join us next time for BionD&D.
Fuck, man.
Bless all your rolls or whatever. See ya.
Whew.
Damn.
All right. So slightly
Sorry.
furrowed expression, but otherwise good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't like the idea of very suddenly passing out. I guess that would be kind of
Fair.
disturbing, frightening, not super cool. I
This is what
know.
anemics feel like.
Oh, I guess that's true.
I mean, I've been knocked to 0 hit points multiple times. It's fine. You get used to it.
I mean, yeah, fair.
I suppose so.
But still, the idea of using blood and then passing out
Yeah,
is
that's
not one that sits well with me.
It's the same thing Jeff does in our fights, like he was saying. Sorry, don't worry about it.
What?
also fair, I guess. Say, did you guys see? So like when we got you know, like bamfed out by this room into like that dark pocket where there was like the writing on the floor.
Yes, the void.
Yes, the void. Did any of you guys like see anything weird?
I mean, we got teleported to a void. That in itself is pretty weird.
No, I mean like when you were in the void, did you experience any like visions? Did anything happen?
Yeah,
I did, yeah.
I saw my father.
Yeah.
Wow, I saw mine too.
Whoa!
Dad's all around.
Yeah!
Saw mine too.
Ah!
Ortiarc, what about you? Did you see your dad?
We saw some
I'm
shit.
sorry. Out of character.
my
I saw my daddy. Dang it.
Oh man, yes.
Wow.
Enough!
It's time to stop.
Anyway, sorry, that was my one. No, nothing. I didn't see anything particular. Interest.
Can I insight check Wartok?
My passive insight is 18, but I'm not gonna do a check on him. Because I think I know better.
Alright, I rolled an 8, so I'm pretty sure no matter what you roll, you're gonna beat me, so don't even bother.
Hold on, let me see what my deception mod. Yeah.
I think your deception modifier is equal to what
It's
I just
8.
rolled, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Oh,
Nice.
bless Jeff.
I just struggling. Okay. Well, I guess I saw more than my dad. I saw both my parents stuck in a burning building,
Oh.
and I just started running in there and trying to get them out. And there's a lot of, I don't know. I saw Nair too. I saw some people from the magic school. A lot of people we've met over the course of this journey, I suppose, trying to help me out, like clear debris out of the way and stuff like that, so I could get my parents out. It was well, it's not. I suppose it's not nice to see your parents in a burning building. That part of it wasn't fun, but
No.
it was nice that a lot of our buddies had my back, I guess.
Why were they in a burning building?
I don't know. I don't know. That's the part I'm still trying to figure out.
None of these
In
visions
addition
have
to-
backstory. Why is that what you're getting on?
Did they set the house on fire?
No. Look, I don't know anything else about what happened there. Like,
Did they
I've been
perhaps
wondering.
forget to turn the stove off?
They would never forget that.
Oh, fair.
They just got too baked.
No. I mean, Paws probably left the stove on a couple times, but Maul would always go behind and turn it off if he forgot. So I doubt that was why. But yeah, I was just wondering why that was the vision of all things. Also wondering if I'll ever be able to eat pie again. So that's neither here nor there.
What was the
Didn't he
last
say
one?
it was temporary?
Yeah,
I
You
guess
can
he
eat
did.
pie again.
you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Okay.
Just like give it a few
Yeah.
days, so
Yeah,
that you
that's
don't
good.
like have projectile diarrhea or throw up or whatever.
Jeff, hear me out, Jeff.
Yeah.
Eat a slice of pie and just deal with the ramifications later.
It's tempting, but I think it's probably smarter to hold off.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. No,
What about rest of y'all, what'd y'all see?
I saw my parents, both of them, which is a first.
That you can remember.
The first that I can remember for the past 3 years, yes. I could see them and hear their voices properly. I know their names again. They told me that they were proud of me.
Were they in a burning building?
No!
Dang it!
Which makes me
I
very
mean-
concerned for whatever's going on with you.
Why was it just me?
I had a very, very nice apparition, and I want to choose to believe that it was not merely my mind playing tricks on me.
Ilya, was your dad in a burning building?
No, but I mean,
Why
I
was
guess
it
he was
just
burning
me?
building adjacent. We were in a battlefield.
Oh, okay, well that's not much better.
There were many burning buildings.
That might be worse, actually.
Well, we got out of it alive, the two of us. So
That's good. What were you fighting?
oh god, what was I fighting?
The
I don't
darkness.
remember that part.
It was the forces of Fronglithor, like all of the like Wraithhearts abounding, thousands and like a huge army of them.
I sleep.
They were
Well,
casting magic missile into the darkness.
What were we fighting? Ah, sleep paralysis demons.
You're not wrong.
Hmm.
And the great hand of Torm broke down from the heavens and smote your enemies upon the ground.
Nice. Yeah, Jeff, I don't know why you had such a messed up vision. That's
Well,
weird.
I
No,
mean,
why were
did
your
it
parents
end
on
well?
fire?
Oh,
No,
what?
just the house was on fire, I think.
Yeah, just the house. I got my parents out just fine. They told
Yeah,
me they
so
were
it-
proud of me too.
Wouldn't
Yeah,
they be like
so it's
fire
fine.
adjacent?
Yeah.
What? I don't know why I got in the fire. I don't know why I got in the burning building. Why was it just me? I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
what
it
else did
sounds
you
like
see?
it was all fine.
Oh, I
Was
mean
it
that.
just
Well, I saw them. I saw Nair. I saw. I guess Ilya wouldn't know who Nair is. I saw some of our old friends from this journey.
Hmm.
well? What else? Were you just dropped in your front lawn with your parents' house on fire? What happened?
That was about all I can remember. As soon as I got my parents out, I got to talk to my mom and Pa a little bit, and then
What did
kind
they
of
say?
kind of ended. What exactly did they say? And they told me I was doing well. I was doing good work in the world.
You were a good boy.
Something like that.
That you'd affected many lives as well. For
Yeah,
someone
and-
from a small farming village, it's damn good.
Yeah.
Lit.
Tell me.
The house was, very much so, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, is anyone watching the stream, and can you tell me if there's frame skips going on?
I don't trust this connection well enough to do this in the stream.
That's
It looks-
fair.
Go check.
It looks fairly normal to me.
Okay, cool. Alright.
Like, I know it's not. I don't know. It's a little bit difficult to tell. Sometimes it looks like it has a low frame rate, but I know that this isn't always like the most optimized stream ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks alright on my end.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems fairly normal, I think.
Alrighty. Well, yeah, I might take a look at things afterwards, but because we've been having this issue now for like 2 weeks, so I don't want to have it keep going. Anyhow, that's
Yeah.
fine. If it's not like distracting, then it's probably good. Cool.
No, not distracting.
Alrighty. So, you all chat as such for a little while, and you can kind of feel your strength coming back to you slowly, but surely. You know, after the first hour or so, you're kind of your nerves are settled a little bit, and you can kind of think a little bit clearer. You're a little less groggy. After another couple hours, you feel like you can, stand and walk around a little bit, and you're not really at peak performance, but you're pretty okay. And then by the time Travian comes back, you're probably at like 60% your normal capacity. You're able to do most of your all of your day-to-day physical stuff, and a good bit of exertion, but not like the most hardcore stuff you could do before. You can get the sense that it'll take maybe another day or so to really get to the fullest of your capacity, but all things considered, it's not too terrible. So Travian comes back in and says, "So, how are we feeling?"
Feel better.
Like
Doing okay?
physically or mentally?
Both.
Ah. Okay.
You see one of the
Alright.
you see one of the guys in the corner scribbling notes.
Oh no!
Nice.
We are a horrible sample size.
His page
Gives
of
Wartok
Wartok.
a nice shoulder pat. Like, it's okay, man.
His page on Wartok just says that boy, right?
That is correct.
How did you see behind the DM screen?
Yeah. Oh, my boy.
All right. So,
I think we're feeling a little bit back to normal.
good. As well. Do you think you're ready?
Is this the thing where if we do it, y'all might kind of stop existing? Is this that part?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Oh.
I don't know what will happen when the Reliquary is opened.
Yeah. Well, if bad things do happen, does your group, your all of you, do you have any last requests? I guess not to make it morbid, but
That is gracious of you.
I think it's more appropriate to ask if you are all ready.
Yeah, that's true.
We've been looking forward to this and preparing for it for, well, what seems like hundreds of years, even 1,000. So, we're all ready. Come what may, we've prepared ourselves for either eventuality. As far as a final request, now that you mention it, there's a few.
Okay.
If you meet any of the Iconunger, if there are any survivors among them, tell them we are gone. And tell them we're sorry. I suppose there is another a piece of information. The Raven Queen was never one of the Ulvari Empire's most revered gods, but we paid her her due, as must all living creatures. She doesn't speak to us here, but I can feel that you, and he looks at you, Kayana, have a connection to her in some way. If we do not make it out alive, I would like you to tell the Raven Queen that her dear one is safe.
Her dear one.
Unfortunately, I cannot tell you more. It is a piece of information that, were it revealed too early, could mean the undoing of everything we and you have worked for. You will find out when the time is right, but for now, deliver that message, if you would.
Sure. I don't know. You all are much closer to her here than we ever would be out there. But I promise.
Well, if you find time to do it while you're here and you hear her responding to you, it may be appropriate. But we cannot reach her. For whatever reason, she does not respond to us.
Gotcha.
And one more thing. Well, two, actually, now that I think of it. And he turns to one of the note takers and says, fetch the tome for me, would you? You know the one. And the aide leaves for a moment, and Travian... Actually, I should describe his departure. He steps into... So you've kind of entered like this separate chamber from where you were before, and this guy kind of turns around, and the wall sort of opens up before him into like what a dumbwaiter that wasn't there before, effectively. And he just kind of steps into the wall, and it kind of like closes back around him with these articulated panels sliding back into place. And you hear the whirring of like gears and a pulley system as the dumbwaiter is dropped. And he descends. A moment later, the sound is gone, and Travian turns and says, "The tome is it's a summary of sorts, a survey-level treatise of our artificery. It is, despite the rather simple nature as compared to an in-depth treatise on the subject, it is still quite the heavy tome. It is not for the light-hearted. If you could find a soul or souls worthy of this tome, I feel there must be some in the world, though I do not know them. No offense to any of you, but I don't think it would be within your purview to comprehend.
No. No.
You're fine.
No,
You are absolutely fine. I feel like we already have some people in mind, to be honest.
Very good.
Yeah.
With any luck, they can decipher it and bring some vestige of our work back into the world. Perhaps it will help with the fight.
On that note, have you seen my friend? We left him with you a little while ago. He's about
The robot?
yeah, that one.
Yes.
Okay. What will we see? Is he like outside? Will we get him there?
Mhm.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
doing
I
We
perfect.
just
need
wanted
to
make sure.
validate his parking.
Oh my god.
No, valet.
Oh
of
crap!
course.
We probably owe some serious parking fees.
We left him overnight. We gotta hope he didn't get towed.
No.
Clanky does the towing. Don't worry. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
I am the one that tows.
Take the ticket. There's a parking garage when we go downtown, and that's exactly what the robot voice at the ticket stand sounds like.
That's really weird.
Good.
I
That's
love
fine.
it.
That's awesome.
Like it's not supposed to be an accented voice, just the emphasis is on the wrong syllable.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah.
It also says to you threateningly, drive safe.
Drive safely, or else.
That's
else.
amazing. Excellent. Yes, your companion is just outside. He'll be.
Okay.
Actually, DM can't remember. Did you all even bring him within the sphere? And he was just dropped on the first floor, right?
Yeah, we got on the
Okay.
first floor and they were like, "Hey, we want to run experiments on your robot, and
Yeah.
he can't go upstairs anyway." So we said, "Okay."
Right. Okay. Cool.
No metal beyond this point.
Yes. Okay. Well. Good.
Alrighty. So. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
at this point, the aide has come back with the tome, and he kind of takes it in his hands and hands it over to the group of you.
How
And
hefty? How thick is this book? How chunky is it?
it's about 1,600 pages.
Oh
Oh, that's
god.
dummy thick.
And
I love
it's
it.
it's not like a printed textbook, right? Like this is all like it is print, but it's not like small print like you would expect in an academic textbook by today's standards. It's like probably size like 16 font. So it's
for
like
those folks who can't see things very well.
more like that's just the limit of what was reasonable for them and like the technology that exists. But yes, it's for the old folks. So he hands over this tome to you and says, "Good luck finding someone. It will be very useful to the right minds." And
Very much agreed.
I have one more request, if I may, and a request,
Oh.
not a well, yes. Succeed where we could not. The heroic Deckhad was the best of the best. There was no mistaking their power in battle or as human beings. They were selected from all kinds, and they represented truly the best of the civilized world. They could not succeed on their own. They could not succeed with the might of gods at their backs. Hronglothor is merely sleeping, as you know. In a word, that means they failed. It was not enough. Because sleeping means that force will come back one day. And it will ravage the multiverse if it does. You'll need something more than they had. I don't know what it will be. It may be an object, it may be a feeling, it may be an entity, an ally. I don't know what form it will take, but you will need something more. That is the best advice I can give you, but I pray it doesn't, or I fear it doesn't amount to much. It is no small task you have ahead of you.
Harley, no.
God damn it, what did I miss? Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, alright.
Serious moment.
There's a reason we don't show the chat on stream.
We should. I'm funny there.
No.
I'm funny too, but it's for the best that we don't. And
Yeah.
that's exactly why.
Yep. Alright. So, I ask this of you with every hope and every faith that you can achieve it. But it is a mountain of a task. By passing our trials, you've already proven yourselves worthy of wielding this relic, and that gives me hope that you would be able to be just as powerful as those ancient heroes, and perhaps even more so. So best of luck on your journey. I think, if you feel ready, that it's time.
Let's go then, I suppose.
Yeah. No sense in putting it off anymore, I suppose.
Indeed.
Sure.
Thank you for for your hospitality and everything. Thank you for all the work you've done here.
He'll hug you, Ilya. He'll come in and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
this
for
is a
everything
big.
you've done.
Thank you very much. Wartok, this is a very big change from the exsanguination comment at the beginning of this.
Well, Draven, we really didn't get off on the right foot first. I do apologize for that.
Oh no, the fault was all mine.
Oh, hey, I don't think I ever gave you one. I'm gonna hand him a taffy.
Oh,
There you go.
thank you.
Little parting gift of sorts.
Oh no. Come. It's not a assured thing that we will die.
Right, no, right.
I'd give
no,
it
fine.
50-50 chance.
Hey, that's better than most games I play.
I like those odds.
Yeah.
Well then, let's give it a shot. And he turns and begins to lead you out of the chamber towards another kind of rounded, what looks like the inside of a parapet. And this marble staircase ascends, flanked by an ornately decorated wooden handle yet again. And yet again, you see those fun little lights that kind of follow you and then zap back to their original positions to light your way as you ascend. And you get to the very top, and Travian kind of pushes open this immense set of oaken doors that kind of swing soundlessly on these freshly oiled hinges. And before you opens up a beautiful dance party. And does she know she's on stream?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, she knows.
Excellent. Let me get to this bit. Where are you? There we are. So, you enter this room, and it is basically a large, like, chapel type room. There are religious carvings and sort of tapestries and stained glass windows, very much like a modern cathedral. Well, not modern, but like a traditional cathedral, with this just very finely made stonework. But distinguishing it from other churches of its kind, there are those kind of hallmarks of the Ulvari technology. You see these fanciful kind of floating brass orbs that give off like hued lights that kind of change color as you watch and shift sort of across the room. And in fact, you can even hear a sort of, you think at first it's disembodied chanting. It's just kind of a music that fills the hall with this chorale. But you see, you hear as you kind of tune your ears to it, that it is coming from a few of those kind of same orbs that are kind of stuck in corners, so that the sound feels like it's coming from all around you at once. This is Dolby 4.1, but the Ulvari edition. 5.1, 5.1. And you get this just very magnificent feeling as you enter this hallowed place. At the far end, instead of like a tabernacle and an altar, you see a great door carved in gold. And it is just this massive, beautiful work of art depicting this scene with these 10 figures in a circle, with one man in the middle kind of speaking to them, giving them a sermon, a blessing. It's difficult to say exactly what. But it seems almost as though he's preparing them for something. As you see, they each have sort of a set of retainers around them. And this scene is kind of set against a very, pastoral, beautiful vista, and all of this detail is captured exquisitely in the wrought gold. and the gold is actually kind of pigmented and flecked with color, so the whole scene kind of explodes with life. And you can only tell it's gold because kind of the rim of the doorway is gold. Another sound meets your ears as you enter the room, and as you're registering the corral, you also hear something of humanoid voices, more direct, deeper, and even a little bit argumentative. And you see about 4 or 5 Ulvari close to the door, maybe 20 or so feet in front of it, kind of among the first few rows of seats. And across from them, sort of standing opposite, is another group of about 5. And you can't quite make out what they are saying, but they seem to be having a kind of argument. Travian kind of looks to you and goes, "I feared this would happen. Hold on." And he steps forward and he goes towards the group on the right, which before his arrival had been one member shy of the size of the other group. And you can hear now, as you kind of step a little bit closer and kind of try and get in to behold this argument a little bit more closely, you can hear that there are kind of 2 sides. One side is arguing that Travian helping you has invalidated the trials, and that you've not yet proven yourselves, because none of you had all 3 qualities individually. They don't believe that, being able to do it as a group means that all of you are worthy, because some of you are just dumb jocks and the others are just sharp twigs. They actually use those phrases.
Dude,
Bitch, a single beam doesn't hold up an entire household.
But each one has to be... Do you say that out loud?
No.
Okay.
no.
You catch... Kyanna, I think you catch this. What are everyone else's passive perceptions?
15.
12.
14.
Let's see what the... Oh god, there's so many figures in here, I forgot. Okay, so the 15s get it as well. You hear someone say, "We should just wipe their memories like the last ones." And another bit of the argument you hear from that side is that since the heroic decad could not defeat Hronglathor, it doesn't make sense to qualify someone based on their abilities being equal to one of the old champions. They would need to be greater in order to stand a chance against such an immense evil. On the reverse side, with Travian now joining them, you hear the counter-arguments. Travian saying that, well, it's absurd. I mean, we literally designed these trials to be unwinnable. If I didn't help them, no one could ever pass. Is that what you want? Hronglathor is coming back. Do you want to be without a champion when that happens? You hear one of them say, even the Hammer himself couldn't do all 3 of these on his own, and he was the only one of us ever to complete the ritual for the Soulstone on his own. You know what that means. And you hear kind of one of the more elderly looking Goliath say, with each group that comes to us seeking to overcome these challenges, their messages from the outer world become more and more dire. We are running out of time. If not these, then who? And at the moment you hear, the 3 of you heard them saying, "We should just wipe their memories like the last one." Travian looks at that particular one and says, "What was that, Arya?"
Oh, fuck.
And she kind of takes a step back. Travian says, "What last ones?" And Arya kind of... The last time you helped a group, some of us, felt that you took it a step too far. You nearly did one of the challenges for them. And when they failed, we just let them go? That couldn't stand. What if too many people found out about this place? We would be inundated. There would be no way to protect our way of life, or the secrets that are held here. They would come in droves and they would overtake us. So yes, we wiped their memory because we couldn't allow that to happen. And Travian just kind of looks at her and says, everyone who does this takes a sworn oath, if they fail, not to do exactly what you've said. That oath is magically bound. Wiped their memory. Do you not remember the old days? And Arya just kind of puts her head down. And then both of the groups kind of turn to you. Travian steps forward and says, as I mentioned, sometimes some of the Ulvari are helpful, and others will try to get in your way. Kind of looks pointedly at the other group. These ones do not think you're yet worthy of entering the Reliquary. I hate to do it, but I think as a proof, we may have to give you one last trial. If you would, hold out the Soulstone. Whichever one of you has it, I don't know.
It's powered by the power of friendship, bitch.
Can't expect you all to operate as a well-oiled machine.
Well,
You're
you
not
should
all one
be able
collective.
to. We used to be, long ago.
Well, I think these alternate perspectives are important.
Well,
It's okay for people to be wrong.
I suppose so. But to put those fears to bed, the stone you hold in your hand has yet to be refined. The magic within it has not been given purpose. The door you see before you can only be opened by that Soulstone. Typically, as the trials are written, we would take the stone after anyone would succeed, and we would attune it to the door and cause its magic to resonate with the magic within the door so that it may be opened by the Soulstone. I think it may be a fitting challenge instead to have you do so. If you were able to do this without our guidance, I think that would prove a fair test to show your mettle. He kind of looks at the other group that's kind of all like murmuring and kind of nodding agreement. They all seem placated by the idea.
I just pat Jeff on the shoulder.
What?
Just don't worry, buddy. We got this.
Okay.
Now then, go ahead. And he kind of gestures to the door, and the two groups kind of part ways so that you have a clear path forward. And they're all watching. No pressure.
I don't suppose I could look through that dummy thick book we just got for any mention of Soulstones.
You certainly could.
I would like to try.
Okay, go ahead and make an... I want to say that's going to be investigation.
Okay. That rolled off. So that's a 1.
Oof.
I'm gonna assist. Try using the table of contents.
I already did that. Maybe I need to use the index instead.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's a lot better.
Stone, index.
15?
Okay, I have a quick question for you.
What's up?
Is your character sheet up to date on D&D Beyond with your equipment?
Pretty much. I don't have the current Soulstone or the book, but it should be.
Okay, I'm gonna check something because I think you have something that I care about.
Okay.
Give me a moment here.
Nani?
I do
Souls
have
of the innocent.
I do have the Opaline Soulstone from before.
What specifically are you looking for? Because I have a cool eyeball that might be useful in this situation.
Okay. I do believe that you got something at the college, or at the Luminaire Academy, which is not listed here.
What, me?
No, Kayana.
No, me.
Oh, sorry.
Get out of here!
Okay.
Got a third eyeball. You could have used a third ear.
Jeff, have you ever considered getting glasses and then also a monocle?
You know, that does sound like an interesting idea.
Oh my god.
But picture this, I could wear 3 monocles.
You know what? I'm
No
like
one man shall have all that
90%
power.
sure that this happened, so I'm gonna say it anyway. You're kind of looking through, and you do notice a section on like tuning soulstones to particular effects, and you note that it kind of talks about seeing the flow of magical energy around the object and weaving the energy through the soulstone to match it. And this kind of,
that does sound familiar.
it kind of perplexes you for a moment, but then you remember something, and you pull out a kind of focusing stone that you got.
Oh,
at the
okay,
Luminaire
so
Academy.
I thought that it was only shown to me. I didn't actually receive that. That's what I was under the impression of.
Okay, I do believe they gave it to you.
Okay.
Because he
Well,
wanted
in
you to
that
practice
case...
with it because he thought it would help you with learning new spells.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, I guess I need to put that in now.
You should definitely do that. So you have this thing,
Shit, dude.
and so you pull it out, and you're like, this might help. So you have that piece of information.
Okay.
If you want to take a minute to
suppose-
add it to your character sheet, you could do that now if you would.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Cool.
I should probably see what's up with the door. How... If only magic existed in this world, and I would know how to run an Arcana check like a normal person with facts and logic. Yeah, I guess.
Are you trying to
Analyzing
figure out
the-
how to use the stone to see this?
Yeah,
Okay.
like it's supposed to tune to the wavelength of the door or something, right?
As far as you can tell.
Okay.
Okay, I
I'm
swear
gonna-
it's getting more
the
tilted
frequency
as
hurts.
as the game goes on. I gotta fix
Maybe it's
this
just
shit.
the shield in the background.
That is twisted, but I think it's this too.
So
That should be like that's straight for the shield.
Oh, I thought the shield was just tilted the entire time.
yeah, same. So
looks much
natural
better.
20 on the Arcana check.
Nice.
Hey!
Ooh.
I'm oscillating between the two extremes.
She studied.
So because I want to kind of roll everybody into this and make it kind of a group thing, I'm going to make that natural 20 the result of all of your collaborations.
What did I do?
You'll see.
Stood there and looked pretty.
Okay.
So, Kayana, you're holding this stone up, and you're kind of like trying to examine it through the like the door through the gem, and kind of see if you can get like if it's light refraction or if it's something like that. And then Wartok kind of comes up, and he's like, well, what if I And he just, I was gonna say cast a spell on it.
Oh, yeah. No, that works too.
Knocks on the door.
You just like pull up you like
Hello?
just a little bit of Eldritch
Hello?
Blast energy, not even like the normal amount, just like pew, and it kind of starts to glow, and you can briefly see as it does, Kaina's kind of like holding onto it, and it just illuminates her view. Wartok, you don't see too much of a change beyond the gem glowing, but Kaina, for like an instant, you see this just complete room change, and you can see these currents of energy flowing throughout it. But it fades almost instantly. And you're thinking to yourself, now what do I need to do? And Ilya comes up with the idea, well, maybe we need to give it like a continuous thing, like a constant surge of energy. And she's thinking about it for a moment, and Jeff goes, well, my ice breath would do it. That would last
Wow.
long enough.
Jeff, when did you
We're
get
fucking
smart?
The DM is smart for us.
Yeah.
No, Christine's dice are smart. We're being carried.
There were plenty of ways to do this. With a natural 20, I was like, well, this should be cool.
Okay, I will contribute with my ice breath.
All right.
I'll breathe heavily on the door.
Jeff continues to breathe. By existing, he wins.
Jeff wins by doing absolutely nothing.
He breathes a little harder than normal. But by releasing his ice breath in kind of a controlled stream upon the stone, the magical essence of his draconic ancestry infusing the stone with enough power to light your view, Kayana, and you can see long enough to kind of just reach out with like your very soul and begin kind of pulling these threads of energy through the stone and redirecting them to match what you see swirling about the door.
I'm airbending, you guys.
Energy bending.
Yeah, energy bending.
Soul bending.
Water bender.
You hear this humming begin, and at first it's kind of a waver, like but it quickly kind of raises in pitch and evens out to the point that it's just this one continuous clear note. And Jeff's breath lapses and the stone stops glowing, but you can feel the energy still coursing through it. As you walk up to the door, it's almost like magnetized towards the door. You press it against the cold, golden metal of its construction, and the door just fizzes away, just completely disappears. And beyond, you see the Reliquary. It is plain compared to the rest of the Secretarium. It is a 10-foot tall wooden dais with 4 sets of simple stairs leading up to it. Positioned on the very top of it is a pedestal maybe 3.5 feet tall, with a very small object on it that you cannot quite see from afar.
Hold up, first I want to get a look at the faces of these naysayers.
You turn around and you see Travian nodding and kind of gesturing you forward, and you see kind of, you might almost call them smug looks on the side of the people who were on your side. And the reverse, mostly you just see awe. They're very impressed.
Before we go into the Reliquary, we might not be perfect and have each of those 3 attributes. But as a team, we make up for each other's faults, and we lift each other higher. I think your concerns are valid, but you would do well to remember that.
Aurea, the Goliath woman who had talked about wiping the memory of those folks before, steps forward and says, "Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps the whole is greater than the sum of the parts." Very well. Enter, and good luck.
I'd like to shake her hand.
She reaches out and accepts the handshake.
My tiny, small grill arms.
Yeah, she like envelops your whole, like, gets like hand and like a little bit of wrist, and then she's like, this is a little awkward, pulls back and kind of like, it's like shaking a kid's hand for her.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Ilya's over here like, I'll pray for you.
Oh!
Oof.
Just the southern, oh, honey.
Oh, bless your heart.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. Some other faces kind of go skyward when you say that, and they're like, "Oh shit, yeah."
What, the I'll pray for you or the I'll or
The
bless
I'll
your
pray
heart?
for you,
Oh.
because they're like that. That means a lot to us. Oh boy, did we anger somebody?
Vámonos.
So Trivian
Everybody, let's
gestures
go.
you forward. He does say, however, I cannot follow you in, but please claim the relic. As you approach the dais and ascend the stairs, you see what is on the pedestal is this small kind of like 3/4 length bracelet. It's unassuming. It's actually a little bit oxidized and tarnished brass. But it is nonetheless intriguing. Has a weight to it that you can feel even without touching it. Which one of you would like to reach out and take it?
Well, I got one of these things already, so it should be one of you guys.
Ilya.
Oh, I was gonna say Wartok.
Wartok.
You've been through the most while we were here. I think you deserve it.
I'll touch it.
Okay. You reach out and you put a hand to it and you feel this immense warmth just kind of flow through you. This bright light shining, metaphorically, from within the bracelet. It seems to accept you. Just the way you are.
Oh, it's so dumb.
Oh.
It's a high school's no bullying campaign.
Oh. Yeah.
Shit, I'm part of the Glee Club now.
Can we get an F in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
A moment passes with your hand on it, and it actually begins to shake and move towards your wrist.
Oh, that's weird.
Do you allow it?
I think I'd probably just be standing there, confused, worried, thinking for a couple seconds.
All right. During that couple of seconds, it snaps into place on your wrist. It kind of rotates so that the gap is on the bottom of your wrist, and you can see a thin, pale line of blue energy connect the two halves, and this item is attuned to you. You can
Slap
tell
bracelet.
pretty immediately what its qualities are, and a good bit more about it. So the name of this item is Ortiarc.
Oh.
Ortiarc. I did not put the notes for it on this page for some silly reason.
Okay.
It once belonged to the hero Falindwyr, who was an elvish archer. This is a bit of a... It's not dissimilar to a Hexblade's pact weapon, in that it can be summoned and disappeared at will. It can come and go as you please. It, for you, acts as a +1 spellcasting focus. So all of your spells will now be at a +1 to attack and damage rolls.
Oh.
Okay.
Once per day, it will allow you to hit when your spell or attack would miss, and to hit critically when your attack would hit.
Oh, okay.
You also gain access to a spell that is inherent to Ortiarc, called Spectral Bodyguard, which is on D&D Beyond.
He is a JoJo now.
Oh no, Wartok got a stand. Oh no.
I made a friend.
In this house we stand.
So the Spectral Bodyguard, it's a first level spell with a material component that is Ortiarc. However, you can only cast it once a day because Ortiarc is the way you cast it. So it's not like a first level spell slot. It's just always that way. You conjure up a Spectral Bodyguard who will appear within an unoccupied space within 5 feet of you. If no such space exists, choose a creature within 5 feet of you and push that creature 5 feet away from you, and then the bodyguard appears there. The bodyguard has AC 10, 20 HP, and cannot take actions or interact with objects except as described as follows. When a creature would make an attack against you, that creature must either attack the bodyguard or attack you at disadvantage. If the attack still hits you, you're resistant to the damage caused, as your bodyguard attempts to put itself between you and harm. So you effectively have 20 HP, 10 hit points at AC 10 at all times. For the 1 minute duration of the spell.
Okay. Dang. So I immediately know that I can do this now.
Yep, you feel this, like, the whole of the spell just attune itself to your soul immediately, and you have an innate knowledge of how to use it. In addition, twice a day, you can get a +3 to hit or ignore disadvantage on an attack. Doing the math, those are about equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
So +3 to hit or what now?
Or ignore disadvantage.
Gotcha.
And one more thing, which is actually for Jeff.
Huh?
Okay. Oh, are we buffing each other?
As Ortiarc is drawn from its place on the pedestal, you can tell, like, Atarax begins glowing with power, and you take it in your hand and you can feel that it too has been empowered by the release of this extra weapon. Before, you could do, it was a +1 bonus, you could cast Calm Emotions once a day, and once a day as a reaction you could deal psychic damage equal to your level to a creature that deals damage to an ally. I hope you have all of that written down. If not, let me know. We'll do that all afterwards.
I do.
Now, it goes up to 2 a day casts of Calm Emotions instead of just 1. And you can use a reaction, an extra reaction. Wait, no. No, that's not right. That's level 6. So it's extra cast of Calm Emotions. Oh, and the first enemy to attack you in a combat is at disadvantage.
Okay, so the first attack against me every combat is at disadvantage.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Unless Wartok decided to attack you and use his ignore disadvantage thing on Ortiarc.
Wow!
Oh, fuck, PvP!
Which of us is the most powerful
PvP!
skater?
Don't kill me. I'm your friend.
Yes, but I could absorb your stand.
Oh no.
You need to destroy his eyeball.
No!
Yes.
That is my stand. Don't do that.
Destroy his stand.
Destroy his stand!
Sorry,
I'd like to summon.
slight nerf. Definitely per day, not per combat, on the disadvantage.
Dang it. Okay, that's fine.
Fair, fair.
To be fair, we don't often get more than one combat in a day in this game
I
anyway.
mean, yeah, it's fine.
It's not a big nerf, it's just very slight. So to the rest of you, as Wartok picks this bracelet up, you can see like this energy surround him, this like glowing white light briefly, and you can actually see the image of a spectral bodyguard kind of just appear, kind of phase in, and kind of dance around him for a moment before phasing out.
Oh, that's cool.
What does the bodyguard look like? Is it like a tiny ghost, Mr. Clanky?
It's an eyeball.
No.
No.
Even better.
Fuck, I didn't design a Patronus test for this.
It's a
What
whale.
would Wartok like it to be?
Yeah, what does Wartok
Botanical.
want it to be?
It's a squid.
A fine
Yeah,
bottle.
I was actually thinking a giant squid.
Octopus.
It's like a 5-foot tall squid that kind of floats in air.
Oh, sick.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, more tentacles.
He only has several, but he's
He has
probably
10.
friendly.
I think they have
It's still
10,
more.
right? Yeah.
It's still more.
It's 10 more.
Yeah.
It's a significant. That's a significant amount more
It is.
He's-
when it comes to tentacles.
He's gonna give you some tickles, Jeff. 10
I-
of them.
As you are chatting, you notice a profound lack of destruction noises. Nothing seems to be falling apart. Nothing seems to be breaking or dying.
Okay.
The folks outside the door are still kind of looking in at you, intrigued. You see some of them kind of like imitating the squid.
Aww. That's adorable.
Oh yeah.
And Travian is kind of nervously looking over his shoulder and around at like, but he seems to be calmed after a few moments and looks back and just smiles at all of you and nods his head. Well,
You didn't die.
we're not dead.
Yay. That's what I was hoping for.
We're not dead either. I guess.
Or
He,
did we all die and go to the same place?
Don't say such things. Travian kind of waves his hand towards one of the walls, and you see just the whole wall begin to kind of peel back and open a window where none was before. And you can see daylight spilling into the room, but you can't quite see out of it because you're inside of the Reliquary still. But all of the Ulvari are kind of, their attention's being pulled away from you towards the outside.
Party!
Go outside.
They kind of begin to step towards this window and just. Do you all stay in the room or do you want to like follow?
No, we're going out there.
We're going with them.
All right, cool.
Should we follow? I guess we're following.
Yeah, well, no, let's go, Jeff.
So
You can bring your third eye too.
as you step out of the Reliquary, you can see out the window now, and you can see this immense kind of. It almost looks like a dissipating force field, kind of this wave of energy being disrupted in the wall of wind about the secretarium, and it just slowly collapses and goes ever downward towards the ground, revealing the clear blue skies of the day. And as it gets even lower, the blanket of snow that now covers, or still covers, this section of the world. You see this vast plain of white, ending in a horizon of the sea and shore. And then as the barrier dips even lower, and you look toward the south, you can see the peaks of the Ulvengart range beginning to emerge from behind this barrier, and the Ulvari are just standing there, agape, wondering at the beauty of this world that they have been so long separated from. The elder Ulvari, who had spoken before, kind of comes forward and begins kind of weaving a spell and pushes forward with his arms in sort of a collapsing motion, and the metal from the walls of the secretarium around where the opening was made begin to shift and coalesce into this great brass staircase that leads from the window down to the earth below.
It's been a while since we've seen the outdoors.
It's been a long while since they have.
Yeah, one of the Ulvari
I guess that's
turns and
true.
says, "Imagine how we feel. It feels like a millennium."
Yeah.
Oh,
The whole 24 of them just take this collective deep inhalation of fresh air as they leave. And they kind of gather at the base of this staircase and await you.
well, heck, we should go outside too.
You do so.
Mm.
And you descend this beautiful staircase. Each
Right
step.
before we do,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take just a quick moment and take out the golden feather from my inventory
Mhm.
and just kind of muse to myself. What was it? Her darling is safe.
Her dear one.
Her dear one is safe. Yeah. Oh my god. Man.
How dare you?
I'll go ahead and say it out loud now. The guardian that defends me. It's like a ward. I have a squid-ward.
Kick him from the call this instant.
No, keep.
I can't reach my mouse pad. Someone else has to do it.
He kicked
He did it
himself.
himself.
Also, I'm really sorry to the stream because when that happens, everything looks terrible on the stream, but it's fine.
Yeah, I joined right back. That was my bad.
Yeah, it was only for a
Oh,
brief moment.
Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as I was doing, just, I don't know if you're listening, but, your deer is safe.
Make a religion check.
Hoo boy! That is not bad. That's a 14 plus, 14 plus 5, 19.
Nice. So what you can feel is it's almost like a, how do I explain it? I want to say like a balloon popping, but that's not a very good metaphor in world. So maybe more like a flask of water being poured out. The divine energy in this place was concentrated. And when the barrier came down, or as the barrier is coming down, more accurately, it is like a canteen of water being poured over a dry field. There is just not enough within. The pressure differential is so great that like the energy in here is rapidly spreading to the area around and dispersing.
Champagne bottle?
Sure. Let's go with that. Like popping a champagne bottle. I like it.
Cool.
You manage to do this while there is still a higher concentration here. So it's escaping, but it has not all escaped yet.
Right.
So your connection is still stronger than it would be on a normal basis. And you get a slight feeling to look upward, and you do. And you see what at first looks like the outline of the Raven Queen. It's hazy, but you see it, and she is smiling at you, and she says, "Thank you." And you blink, and the vision isn't there anymore. It's actually a hawk flying in circles above you. But
Sorry,
for that moment,
what? You cut out. What? The vision fades, and then...
Yeah, you like blink, and the vision isn't there anymore. It is instead like a hawk, a bird of prey, just circling around. But for that moment, you swear it had been her. So she heard you, you think.
Cool. All right, let's go play in the snow.
Yeah, the Ulvari. Actually, let me think. What would the Ulvari's like snow traditions be?
I'll start a snowball fight with them.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know, but that's happening.
So they'll be receptive to that, but before you get down there, like what they're doing in the snow is what would they do? They definitely make snow angels. So definitely doing that. And I think they would also be really into like making ice sculpture. So with their like command of magic, you see several of them kind of like weaving up these kind of abstract works of art and freezing them in place as these like gorgeous ice sculptures that at first look just like packed snow, but then they push arcane energy through it, and the snow kind of bursts outward, revealing this like very smooth, very glossy sculpture beneath. It's kind of awesome. And then, half of them are just dicking around making snow angels. And as Wartok comes down and just balls up a big old snowball and chucks it at one of the Ulvari, it kind of takes him in the shoulder, and he turns around and he goes, "Oh, is that what we're doing?"
Ilya, cover me!
You got it.
As you're running, he just he scoops up this enormous amount of snow in both arms and just begins
Shit.
packing it against his chest and just.
My buddy.
Oh, I got my shield out.
Oh.
Are we having a snowball fight?
Yep, that's what's going on.
Turns my pack weapon into a sling and chucks snowballs.
Oh, and I create water over one of their heads in the shape of a ball.
Nice. It freezes and just drops.
Thunk.
I'm just gonna start throwing snowballs the old-fashioned way.
Like half of the Ulvari are doing the same, Jeff, so you are not alone. I'd like everybody to roll a d20.
All right.
Okay. That's a 2.
8.
1.
3.
Hey!
Hey.
1, 2,
Water.
3.
8. I did
Y'all are
it.
just absurdly outnumbered. And
Uh,
so you hold your ground for maybe 3 minutes, and then you're just getting pelted by too many snowballs from too many sides, and
Time to make a getaway.
you do not win this
Shield
snowball
off.
fight.
Rip shield off and use it as a sled.
oh,
Breath
heck
of the Wild
yeah.
style.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
There's a bit of a hill for you to glide down, and then you realize that you just gave up the high ground, and they start pelting you with snowballs from
Oh,
above.
so I whiff it at the bottom.
I have the high ground and a kid.
So actually, Wartok, as you say, "Come save me, Clanky," you actually start to hear thum, 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 thum.
Y'all are in trouble now.
Clanky's there right next to you, and he just kind of squats in the snow in front of you. All the snowballs are just slamming against him, and he's just
Aww. How cute.
behind him is a very disgruntled looking Ulvari researcher running behind him going wait!
Quick, throwing at him.
Yeah, but
The nerd.
Thwap! Oh.
Ooh.
He magics up like a snow lance and just chucks it at you guys.
Whoa!
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
It's not sharp or anything, just in the shape
Yeah.
of.
just thump.
Wow, we're using snow weapons? I thought this was for funsies.
That is fun.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll accept that.
So it was pretty cool too. It's pretty cool.
Well,
Mhm.
the researcher finally catches up and goes you'll find he's got a few interesting improvements to him.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, an interesting piece of work,
Yeah.
this one.
Right? It's pretty cool.
Whoever made him was considerably talented. Not quite as much as I am, but
Ooh.
All right, Captain
Humble
Humble
brag.
Brag.
given the circumstances under which he was made, I'd say quite impressive.
You're impressive, buddy.
Even more so now.
What
Uh,
have you done?
So his max HP increased by 20. His bonuses for like his proficiency bonus increased by 1 effectively. And he can now use his action to use his regeneration trait.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Okay.
So he can
He
use
became
an
more
action.
proficient clanking.
Yes. He can use an action to restore 20 HP to himself.
Okay.
That's pretty good. Clanky just becomes the tank.
Well, yeah.
Tanky.
As we slip, Mr.
Mr. Tanky.
Yeah. We need to
Ah.
get a missile launcher on him now.
Yes.
Clank is gonna
Wait, I
outlive
think I
all
am
of
the
you.
missile launcher.
He
Don't say
is,
that. I'm sad. Well, maybe not Kayana.
Kayana would give him a run for his money. He definitely
Yeah.
outlived Joe.
Alrighty. A child should outlive their parents, right?
Hmm.
I mean,
Let's not actually get into that because that could be really really dark really fast.
well,
Yeah.
so if I make it to level 18 in Druid,
Oh yeah.
I get a lifespan increased tenfold.
Yeah.
And elves have a lifespan of about 750 years naturally.
Yep.
And I'm not very far in. I could be in for a very
True, but Clanky is inorganic.
yeah.
Like he will never die of old age.
No, but he might
Neither
die
will
of
Kayana.
rust.
I don't think he would die. He might rust to the point that like he couldn't move, but he could still be
Move.
fixed.
Yeah.
Kind of a torturous existence if he were sentient.
Can we get a C in the chat for Clanky?
Yes.
Anyhow,
Anyhow,
so he returns Clanky to you, upgraded.
Boy.
And the rest of the Ulvari are still, they've kind of turned into their own factions and are having a snowball fight amongst themselves now. But Travian kind of breaks away from it and walks over to you and says, "Well, the flow of time has been returned to normal here, it would seem. And, well, we're not dead. So,
That's good.
if you have any questions or any need to make use of our facilities, please feel free. You'll always be welcome here. I think most of us will attempt to go out into the world and spread our knowledge of what we know to the people here and see what good we can do, how we may help."
And what of you?
I will likely remain here for a while, but in a year or so perhaps I will roam as well. We'll set up some form of rotation, I'm sure. I plan to volunteer for the first rollback at this, staying at the Secretarium, mostly because I think it could have some touching up to do to get more in line with the times, and people will need a
he
guide.
needs a modern designer.
People will
Just
need a
get Bobby
guide
Birkin.
when they come to visit.
That's fair.
Makes sense.
I'm glad that you'll be able to feel the sun on your skin again.
And enjoy the snow.
Yes, indeed.
We've definitely done plenty of enjoying the snow.
Not for 1,000 years of missing it, we haven't.
I suppose not, but it'll be around.
It will. It is winter here, I presume, and
Yes.
judging by the temperature and the placement of the sun, I would say still early. Perhaps the
Ye-
6th week?
I don't know, probably.
Sure.
It is, in fact, the 6th week.
Damn, you got this down to a science.
Are you a wizard?
Well, yes.
Did he
and
take that feat?
yes.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Did you take the Keen Mind feat?
Yeah.
It's not quite inherent to the Ulvari, but it kinda is.
Hmm,
Hell yeah.
cool.
They're awesome. Just FYI.
They're
Yeah.
OP. They're OP. It's okay.
It's okay. You guys might get more OP than them.
I get more what? Cut out after that.
Ah, okay.
But it's okay. I have enemies to match you.
No, when I can attack 3 times per turn, you can.
What if they can attack 7?
Their first one has disadvantage, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also 50 of them.
You're
350 attacks per round.
I got this.
Jeff, you got
No
this, buddy.
fighting.
I got this.
No,
I got
I
this.
believe in you. No, you can do
Uh,
this. Good luck.
Jeff, you have 2 calm emotions cast per day. Buddy, get on it.
Don't worry, guys. I have bless and healing word prepared.
Oh, thank God, a useful cleric.
Oh, bless.
Ah!
Yay.
Speaking of which, but I got an OCC not to go.
I have no idea what that is.
I can't tell.
Oh, is that the magical girl cleric thing?
There we go.
Yeah.
Nice. Excellent.
Nice.
I put the magical girl DM keychain on my Christmas tree. It's one of the only ornaments I have up right now. We have a box of them, but we just haven't
Put up
put
yet.
out. But
All right, you know
Okay,
what?
we have a Christmas dragon.
I'm going to try something here because we're getting... I think what we're getting is like... Yeah, I think we're getting a lot of frame dips here. So I'm actually going to stop the stream and change a setting and then restart it. So
Type PogChamp in the chat for yes or Bible Thump for no.
Alrighty. Looks like we are at kind of a low frame rate, but it wouldn't be terrible because we're not doing anything high action. So it should be fine. We'll see. Alright. Cool. So, back to it. So, is there anything the group of you does want to do? You have access to much more of the Secretarium now. Our labs, our libraries, anything you wish,
Library!
really. Very good.
books.
Ah, a studious one, are we?
Yes.
Very good. Well, we have quite the treat for you, I think.
All of the knowledge.
Okay, so
I'm a learned girl.
yeah. So as Kayana goes to the library, what would the rest of you like to do? Just as to kind of give options here. They are, they're highly religious folks, so you could learn more about religion from them. You can learn about spells that they have knowledge of. You can learn about, a little bit about their technology, things like that. You could practice fighting with them. You could do a good number of things. You could simply observe as they go through some of their experiments and try and they're going to try and create another Soulstone now, now that they're kind of out of that weird flow of time, and might be able to recover from the process. So there's that as well. Could do, ask them questions if you have them.
I'll just fucking spar, man.
Okay.
I'll spar as well. And also,
yeah.
perhaps one night I will offer to cook up a celebratory feast.
I'm a suplex Jeff.
What? I'll suplex you back. You want
Alright.
to go?
Fair.
Roll for
Suplex each
suplexes.
other.
All right, are we rolling for suplex? Are we just straight up
Are
having
we?
a wrestling
Yep.
match in the snow now?
Yup.
All right, let's go. Let's do it.
Alright, hang on, let me get back to my character sheet.
Just unarmed attack roll.
Oh,
Okay.
I thought we were gonna do athletics.
Yeah, I'm not throwing punches. I'm wrestling.
Yeah, it's sure you can make it athletics.
Okay, I got it.
Let's say
A lot.
like a grapple is typically an attack roll. The escape is usually the athletics check. But
Ah,
Let's do athletics check. It's more fun that way.
all right.
I got a 21.
I got a 16.
Damn. Ilya puts up a good fight,
Whoa!
but gets suplexed.
Damn.
I did it.
Again!
Okay, we'll go again. Round 2.
Best 2 out of 3.
Okay, this one's a dirty 20.
Bite my lily white ass.
What did you get?
A 19.
Oh. Oh.
Damn.
This time, like, Ilya's like got him, and she's like almost about to, but Jeff pulls off this like sick backflip as he's about to get suplexed, and then just flips her over his shoulder.
He uses her weight against her and reverses it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shit.
Beautiful.
Good game. Good game. Good game.
Good game. Has done nothing for my pride, but good game.
Okay. So as you all are sparring with the Ulvari, I'll get, yeah, there'll be something you gain from doing so. How long do you all want to spend here? Just as a group. Take some time, probably the evening after this, this gathering, and decide how long you want to spend.
I mean, however long Kyan wants to stay in the library.
Yeah,
However long
probably.
she needs for that.
Yeah, probably until Kyan is done with the bugs, and then we can shove off.
Jeff and I are just suplexing each other, so like,
we're just fighting people. We're fighting each other. We're fighting NPCs. We're just having a good old time.
gonna
Yeah.
suplex Travian, maybe wink at him.
Are we going for that?
I don't know. I don't know,
Whistle.
man. I don't normally go for that sort of thing.
All right, roll for suplex.
Okay, shit. Okay.
Oof.
What's Wartok gonna do?
I'll probably also be going to the library.
24.
23. Damn it!
Uh,
Good.
Fuck!
just barely, Travian manages to turn you about and suplex you, but not without a mighty struggle. And as you are there lying on the floor, he reaches a hand down to help you up, and he kind of gives you a little wink as he pulls you to your feet and says,
Ooh.
Impressive.
Boys!
I want to go with Travian. I want to select him too.
"All right, roll." Oof, not a great roll.
Roll.
That's a 26.
Yeah, you get him. He got
Damn
an
it,
11. No, 18 rather. No,
He's
God,
up.
wait. Not 14. Jesus. Okay. Math is hard.
It is hard.
So he starts out confidently, but he kind of loses his footing at one point, and you exploit that advantage to just put him on his ass.
I distract him. That's it. Jeff and I tag team.
He stands up and goes, "Both of you are formidable opponents." Very
you as
impressive.
well.
Yeah. Very close.
Indeed. So, yeah. Let's see.
And then
Wartok.
one
Oh,
night while we're here, I'm gonna offer to cook up a big old feast for everybody.
Absolutely. And there might be a little bit of There might be a little bit of extra stuff to do with that, so let me get the broad strokes of what Wartok is going to do before
Yeah,
we
no
resolve
problem,
it.
no problem.
Wartok, what do you want to do?
Suplex dudes with us.
No.
This is 5 strain.
It's okay. We'll help you.
I'll probably also be going to the library.
Okay, cool. Wartok and Kayana, how long do you all want to spend there? Just so you are aware, this is back in like normal timeline, so
Yeah.
the war is ongoing. You probably don't have, you don't have infinite time.
Right.
On another note, I only did this for Druid because I was stupid. I should have done it for every spellcasting class that you guys are a part of, but any spell that is on both your spell list and the wizard spell list, they will have access to. So, Kayana, for you, that means they have, at level 4, Conjure Minor Elementals and Locate Creature. At level 5, they have Conjure Elemental and Chaos. At level 7, they have Mirage Arcane and Reverse Gravity.
Oh,
At
that
level-
one sounds like fun.
At level 8, they have Control Weather and Sunburst. And at level 9, they have Foresight and Shape Change.
Well, you gotta collect all the Starburst flavors.
I do.
What
So,
flavor is Sunburst? What flavor
recall-
is sun? What does the sun
Orange.
taste like? Okay.
Oh man.
Or you could do Conjure Minor Elementals to get a bunch of weird flavors.
No, those are
Mm,
Skittles.
Oh god.
You're right.
Conjure Elementals just conjure Major Skittle.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Recall
I'm
that they
not
are here for a bit, and the level 8 spell will take 4 weeks to create. Like, they're not going away, so they'll be here if you come back.
Yeah, they're just kind of out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
True. But if you happen
Uh.
to get Pentrum's teleportation stuff going, then maybe you have a way to get back there.
Right. So, oh man, reverse gravity would.
Or we just eventually turn Mr. Clanky into a car.
Mm.
A jet.
So,
Oh
A
yes, a
tank.
jet.
Transformers.
Clanky's in disguise. I know I want to do 1 week at minimum.
Okay.
I'm
That would not get
No.
you any spells of level 4 or higher. It would only let you finish
I
out something
know.
you were already working on.
yeah. I don't know.
Wartok, do you
Okay.
have an idea?
Um,
Help her out.
Maybe 2 weeks. I don't know about more than though.
definitely not more than 2 weeks. We don't
No.
have too much time to spare. I mean, could we take some of the materials to go by chance? Some little light night reading.
Footnotes.
We could let some books be lent out of the library, certainly. They may not do you as much help if you're not in a place where you can reference a guide, but certainly if you can work through them on your own, they might be of help.
I think it's probably the best solution.
Yeah.
This will be on the road a lot.
Yeah, we still got a couple days of travel cut back.
Yeah. 'Cause what I want to do chiefly is keep working on reincarnate.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
I know that they won't have do some lore history book reading, but as far as spells are concerned, I'm trying to focus on that one right now.
Okay. So are you mentioning this to Travian as you're talking about your goals for the time you're there?
Yeah, sure. I'll give him the Cliff Notes version of what I'm working on.
Interesting. You haven't access to such a spell in your world yet?
No, nothing of this caliber works out here.
Well, what you're describing is quite a simple, almost quotidian spell. This surprises me.
What is it? There are cases where even when the soul is willing, there's something preventing it from either returning to a body or some such, right?
Kinda.
This is me asking the
Yeah.
DM, yeah.
Kinda. It's more like it's no one has quite cracked how to kind of guide the soul back. No one can, like, they reach out and they can, like, the magic can kind of contact a soul, but it's not enough to like, something is wrong with
Okay.
what the spell is trying to accomplish. Is what, like, most research notes have kind of seemed like. It's like, it seems like it should work, but it just fails.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to convey all of that to him.
Sure. Well, there may be something for it. When the spell was first being researched back thousands of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
the wizards who were first able to crack it were those who brought themselves to great places of transition. Places like estuaries or ecotones, where the land changes from water to land or from mountain to plain. Great transitional places where the link between the dead and the living might likewise be weakened in that transition.
Mm-hmm.
It may do, if you can find, since the spell seems so evasive, perhaps not just any zone would do. You might have to venture somewhere perilous, like a steep cliff, a high peak, or a whirlpool, or a great
A
storm.
dragon slayer?
That could do.
Wait, I'm not here. Sorry. Somewhere off in the distance, Jeff goes,
Jeff goes,
Jeff just
"Huh,
gets
I
this
got a
deep
feeling like I wanna go
feeling of
home."
uneasiness.
Jeff's bullshit sense starts tingling.
But Trivian says, any such place, if you were to try and perform the spell there, you might be able to find something, though, well, I hate to say it, but you'd require a willing test
Dead
subject.
person.
Yes. In fact, the easiest way that I can think of would be to die yourself.
somewhere in the distance,
Oh.
Jeff goes,
At any rate, it may work with something less than that, but that would be your safest bet, I would think. You need to tap into that twilight between life and death. Reach out and see. Perhaps something is different in this world. Reach out and see what that difference might be, and use that to your advantage as you're crafting this spell.
Okay. So here, I was thinking it had something to do with the planar rending.
It might.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. For mechanics purposes, would I still be able to do any like progress on researching?
So you
Or-
can
or-
research it up to quote-unquote completion, but
Okay.
no matter what, when it is completed, it will have this flaw that is basically, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay. I may as well get to that point.
I see no harm in it. A theoretical understanding of what you're trying to do might inform you when you go to attempt it.
Yes.
All right.
And then obviously the stuff I messaged you about, that's stuff that I want to do
Yes.
lore research on the side.
So some of
And-
it will be you have to like read books. Others could just be asking the Ulvari because they're still here.
Sure, that's cool. I'll ask the cool librarians.
Awesome. So I can give you those answers, and we'll go through them in a little bit of a role play-y way.
Sure.
But let's go
And then
ahead
the
and oh yeah,
Last
go
order of business I have is just, I guess in the evenings when I have some spare time, I'd like to do some meditation to work on the fire percentile thing.
ahead. Very good.
I'm a busy girl with a busy schedule.
Yes, indeed. Wartok, what would you like to be working on during the 2 weeks you're staying here? Because that's kind of what I heard is the consensus was 2 weeks might be best.
I want to start by just looking around the library, see if there's anything weird that stands out. I kind of want to try out my new eyes. I see a book that's written in a really old language.
Yeah, absolutely. You actually see several as you're walking about the library. You don't even need to roll for that because it's not an uncommon language to them, but it's completely unknown to anyone in the modern world except for those of you who have this warlock feature. And you see what looks to be this very interesting. It's like almost a runic language, but it is a little bit more cohesive than that. There's a little bit more linguistic structure to it. And you pull a few tomes in it off of the shelves. Most of them a little bit heady, having to do with their artificery, or you find a couple of religious treatises that are a little bit more like, talking about ways in which to show devotion, feast days and holidays and solemnities, and basically just the observances of a religion. Those are a little bit more like comprehensible because they're mostly guides. And you find that, you can read these relatively easily, but it's not a language you've ever seen before.
Cool.
Well,
Okay.
relatively easily. As easily as you would read the same book in common.
Okay.
One of the librarians does see you kind of pouring through one of these tomes, and I'm going to briefly make up a librarian name on the spot. Hold on.
Steve.
Kyle.
It's got to be a Goliath name, guys.
Steve.
Soulstone.
I think Valith. Valith comes over. He introduces himself. Hello, my name is Valith. I see you are reading some interesting books. How are you able to read them?
I got new eyes a couple days ago.
New eyes.
Yeah.
My total key.
I don't understand what you mean, new eyes.
Well, all right. So there was this guy. Well, there was this tentacle, and then there was this guy, and then we were up in a castle, and then I was kind of below a lake. Then we were up above the castle again. Then we came here. I saw him a couple more times, and then I woke up and I could just kind of read whatever.
This sounds like divine vision.
Yeah, but yeah, give or take.
Oh, are you a warlock?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, very well.
Wartok. No, it's pronounced Wartok.
Hey!
Well,
What
we'll
episode
talk.
are we on?
53.
No, 50. Yes. Why am I'm thinking Critical Role episodes.
Oof.
5 plus
My
3
total
equals 8.
B.
My total B.
That's just because this is that.
What
that
is this voice I'm apparently doing without knowing?
so,
So,
in, Sunday group. We're doing the descent into
Avernus?
Avernus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the tank, and I'm a blood hunter Goliath named Sotark. And
Okay.
Sotark sounds like a Russian man. He
All
wears
right,
a
all right.
tracksuit with stripe up side and Ugg boots that say left, right, left, right.
I'm going a little more generic Eastern European than specifically Russian, but good. Very good.
Still, all Goliaths.
All Goliaths are
are
alike.
Russian. All,
All Goliath alike.
all
Goliaths
Goliaths are
stand.
Soviet boys.
I feel like that's racist.
Is proven fact. We all wear Adidas.
We wear Adidas
Ah,
No.
tracksuit.
And squat.
I feel like I should be more concerned with the Soviet boys comment, but whatever.
Anyway, the language you are reading, it's called Eltaren.
Oh.
It's
see.
it's not one that, well, it's not one that existed on this world after the scouring. It was wiped from memory.
Huh.
It is interesting that you can read it. I suppose we didn't foresee the warlock's ability to read just about anything as overriding the spell.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, good. That that ability will help you.
Yeah, it seems useful.
Indeed, it will prove very much so. Well, to speak plainly, the spell that wiped all written records from this world.
Yeah.
Eltaren was explicitly excluded from its workings.
Okay.
The language was wiped from the living memory of all those in the world, but written works in it still remain, as a sort of failsafe. So,
Okay.
use it wisely.
No guarantees, but I will use it.
Good enough.
Yeah. Good.
Was there anything specific you were kind of looking for with this?
Nothing specific that I could think of. More just want to look around, kind of get more history, and see if anything stood out as I was going through.
Okay.
And
Go ahead and
finish
make
up
an
research on my spell. whatever it means.
investigation check.
Okay.
Kayana, you do the same if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. Let me just finish rubbing lotions on my dry ass palms.
Why do you have ass palms? That's not where your palms should be.
Don't question it.
Well, what can I say?
Ethan, run!
It's cold.
What?
Oh, there's no escape for him. He knows that.
Dirty 20.
Dirty
I
20.
mean, I got a third eye. I'm already good.
No, not
But it's
Jeff.
the opposite of good.
No, it is good.
Well,
That's
Capital G
four,
good.
4 total.
4. Oof.
Not good.
That's okay. Most of the things you find that look like they'd be useful are in Eltaren, and then Wartok's like, I got this.
you want some help?
So as the two of
Yes,
you are
please.
researching, Wartok kind of takes the lead with the actual reading part. But we'll resolve that stuff in a moment. And Wartok, what was the spell you were working on?
Black tentacles.
Black Tentacles. Cool.
Of course.
And they'll get named after you, by the way.
Sick.
Because they currently don't have a creator or a name.
Well, they will soon.
All
My
right.
baby.
So, Ilya, you said you were sparring,
Yeah.
as were you, Jeff?
Yep.
All right. Let's go ahead and do Jeff's dinner scene first. So,
Okay.
you go to the like, there's like one cook among them, named Sirathan.
Oh, I was gonna say Ramsey.
Steve.
Jiff.
Yeah,
It's pronounced GIF.
I was gonna say spelled J-I-F, right? Because that's not what G-I-F is.
Ooh, both of you can leave.
Excuse me, I'm God.
then I'll leave.
Wait, come
Oof,
on.
no, not like that!
Quick, touch reincarnation.
Alright, so, you go and talk to, God, what was, I just came up with it.
Steve.
Sirathan, there we go.
Dang it.
You go and meet Sirathan in the kitchens one day as he's preparing a meal, and he kind of looks at you as you're coming in and goes, "Oh, hello.
Hi.
I have very deep accent. It's caricaturish, really.
I see.
What can I do
Well,
for you?"
I was interested in flexing my cooking skills a little bit. Maybe help you make
Oh.
a nice dinner for everyone.
You have skills in kitchen. Good, because I don't know frying pan from skillet.
Oh, okay. I suppose you're the cook out of necessity then.
Yes.
Understood.
So
Well, if you want.
we have any ingredient you could possibly wish for. The gardens are just through that door, and also all of the anything you could want. Meat we can make. It's not real, but it tastes good. And yes. What do you need?
Well, let's have a feast. So let's say everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Come with me.
Okay.
He opens the door, and before you see this, like, it's probably like 10 acres of land that are just all under these different flavors of sunlight, each growing these huge swaths of crops. And he says, "I don't think we will need all."
So this is definitely. I was definitely being metaphorical when I said everything, but this really does look
Oh.
like everything.
Yes.
Okay.
There's some plants here that you don't even recognize, and you're a farmer.
God, what are some of these things? Like, I've been a farmer my whole life. I've never seen any plants like this.
They were brought here from other planes.
Other plane?
Yes. Like, plane of fire, plane of ice, plane of...
You telling me plants grow on the plane of fire?
Yeah. This is, over there. And you see in just, like, this deep red light, and it looks like you could actually see kind of steam rising from the ground over there. There's a swath of plants growing.
What do they look like?
Mostly they're like they're kind of harsh looking. They're a little bit like orangish in color. Like there's a few root vegetables near the ground that are like almost spined, but then also kind of like curl over and like they have a bit of a squash look to them, but like they'd be harder to husk than a normal squash. And then you also see like a few fruit trees that their leaves are the color of flame, and the fruit that grow upon them is this like bright green, like the color you think of when you think of acid. And they've got this like they're spherical, but then each one of them has this like big kind of like just drop like an icicle coming out of the bottom of it.
These are freaky looking fruit you got here.
They're from all over.
It's good to taste the ingredient before you cook with it. Can I try like a small sample of it?
Certainly. And he goes over. He doesn't go over. He snaps his fingers, and a little like helper droid kind of floats up next to him. It's kind of insectoid in its look. It has like a segmented body and these like four kind of I would say claw-like appendages that kind of stretch downward, and it has these two beating wings that are not quite connected to the main parts of its body. And he whispers to it for a moment, and it kind of flies off over in that direction, picks off one of the fruit and one of the squash-like vegetables, and brings them both back, kind of speared on one claw each, and presents them to you.
God, you have farming robot?
Well, they do most of the fetching. We do most of the actual work. Oh,
I
I'm
see.
sorry. My accent got less caricaturish. I don't know why I let it drop.
Oh my god.
Dude, it's okay. You just talk like yourself. It's okay.
No, this is me. I get
sorry.
subdued when I'm nervous.
No, what are you nervous for? It's okay.
New people. I have not seen new people in a millennium.
I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that part. I'm sorry. I guess it's not very sensitive of me to keep forgetting
No,
that.
no. It has only been 300 years for you. It's understandable.
I see. Okay. I will try one of the fire plane fruit.
Okay. It is like spicy.
Oh.
It's kind of like if you just took a peach and a habanero and you just smashed them together.
Haha,
that
loser, you
sounds
got pranked into eating a ghost pepper.
That sounds delicious. I want
Right.
one.
It does sound delicious.
Ah.
It's like so you with your ice heritage, it's like it brings a tear to your eye, but you
Oh.
cannot deny that it's delicious.
Oh, this is so good, but also it's hurting me.
Greg has a
That is
Greg,
why it
Jeff
is
has
best.
a geographic tongue.
No, I'm just not used to super spicy food.
It's what makes it
I
good.
want
Salsa.
salsa from that.
Ooh. Ooh.
Right?
Girl.
I'll hold on to a couple of these fruits. I might be able to do something with it.
Very good.
What about the ice plane fruits?
Oh yes. He points to another section and kind of gestures for the robot again, who kind of flies over there. Kind of the exact opposite side of this large farm. Eventually, the robot comes back. This time bearing a strangely like geometric vegetable that you're like kind of confused at first about how something organic can grow like this, but it's very sharp planes. It almost looks like like something out of a math textbook just popped out into the real world, and it has this kind of like light yellow coloration to it, like a little bit pale. And as you kind of like take a bite into it, it's does not have the texture of a vegetable you have eaten before. It's crunchy all the way through until like the very center, where the flesh is like literally like meat.
My God, it's almost like I took a bite out of a sheep or something.
It kind of tastes like chicken.
Oh, I guess it's more like chicken. This is
Sheep,
interesting.
the other white meat.
The other meat.
They're not
This
white
is
meat. But,
this is certainly an interesting consistency.
It is. How to explain? The cold means that they need to have this hard exterior, and it needs to be deep, or they will die. But then the very
Fair enough.
inside is where everything lives, so it needs to be soft and mushy. But it also needs to be dense, which gives it this kind of meaty consistency because it needs to have a lot in that one little area, and it can't have too much because it can't grow that big.
Okay, so I guess the meaty part is the part you're actually supposed to eat, not chewing through the rest of it. Like
you can chew through the
bone.
rest of it. It makes for a good shaving, like a good zest.
Hmm.
Garnish.
Okay. What other extra plainer fruits and vegetables do you have? I'm curious now. Jeff is on board with this.
Okay. Let's see.
You got anything from the Feywild? I'm not here, but I'm still listening because the chef and me is really, really intrigued.
So he'll get the robot to bring over like I'll say 3 more dishes. One from a celestial, like a lower celestial plane.
Ooh.
One from the Feywild, and one
Fuck yeah!
from is the plane of Earth a thing? I'm gonna make it a thing because
Yes.
I think it
planes.
is. But
Yeah.
I think
Cool.
all the elements have planes.
I think so too.
Yeah,
Um,
and they also have like transitional planes too.
Yes,
So it's
yeah.
like Earth, Fire.
basically ecotones, but for planes.
Yeah.
Is the plane of earth fruit just like a rock?
It is. It looks just like a rock, like literally exactly like a rock, and
Are you sure?
it grows like just above, like a large part of it is below ground, like for the root system, but like it grows like on top of the ground, so it literally just looks like a rock was laying on the ground and the robot picked it up.
It's like
Are
the
you,
rock world from Kirby 64.
are you sure this is a rock?
Test and find out.
But it's okay. I'll trust you on this one, and I'll just take a bite out of it.
Jeff,
It's a
you
rock.
have eaten glass while high before.
You kind of
That is true.
hesitantly crunch down with your dragon fangs, and they meet almost no resistance. The texture of this thing is like butter. It just like your teeth slice right through it, like it's just incredibly soft.
It's
As
a
you're
rock avocado. Yes.
as you're kind of chewing through it, it tastes a little bit tart, like kind of yogurty in flavor, but very buttery in texture. But then as you chew it a little longer and you kind of let it mellow in your mouth, it turns into this very like subdued but like subdued sweetness, but with like a little bit of a hint of like oak almost. You get like this sweet woody taste to it afterwards. It's very interesting.
This is nothing like I thought it would be. I thought it was gonna be hard, but
It's a Chardonnay avocado dirtland.
this is the weirdest one so far. I think I was expecting you to just get like, rock. I was expecting you to eat a rock.
Strange
Root
worlds have
vegetables.
strange plants.
Very much so. Let's do the celestial one next.
It doesn't look like it looks like something that's already been baked. It literally looks like a lemon bar of kinds. Like it's not quite the same color as a lemon bar, but like it has that same kind of look to it, the same kind of tiered, like layered structure, and it looks fluffy like a pastry.
Looks like someone already cooked this. Are you sure this grows off a tree?
Celestials, what can I say?
I guess they move in mysterious ways. I'll take a bite.
It's like biting into a cloud, and immediately you're just like, you've never had food that made you just like, it wasn't so much of a taste as it is a feeling. You're just immediately like rejuvenated and happy, and you just feel like in that moment things are just right. This is good, like capital G good.
I'm gonna start crying while eating the celestial plant.
It's like the giant Miyazaki tears, just
Yeah.
It's
Dude,
like-
I don't know what's in this apple, but it's the best dang apple I've ever had.
It has that effect on many. Don't be ashamed. Let it out. Let it. Come here.
I'll give him a hug.
Kind of lets you cry into his shoulder for a moment.
It's so
I
good.
And the last one, and he kind of pulls.
Oh, yes.
It looks like an apple, just plain apple. Hands it over to you.
This is the Feywild one.
Yes, it's like a red
It's-
delicious. It doesn't even look like a good species of apple. It's like
It looks like a really shitty
Damn.
fucking.
Oh my god,
Out here firing shots.
this is a trick. This has to be a trick. It looks too normal.
it does look normal.
Another one looked like a rock.
And yet here I am about to eat it anyway, and I'll take a bite.
At first, it tastes like nothing. It doesn't even taste like it's there. Like you bit into it, and then you look at the apple to make sure that you bit into it. And indeed you did. And then the flavor kind of hits you, and you just, like, you're taken aback by it. It is apple, but it's like apple tinged with this hint of just possibility. Like you taste this and you can just all of a sudden your mouth is alive with these different flavors. Like as you think of a flavor, it morphs and you taste it. And you think of another and it morphs and you taste it. The texture, it doesn't so much change as it's not there. Like you're chewing and there's something there that you're chewing, but your teeth don't ever feel like they're meeting a different kind of resistance, even as you're changing what your taste buds are receiving.
This is freaking weird fruit.
It's an everlasting gobstopper.
Baking it removes all of the magical properties, and it's just a normal apple. Don't bake it.
Oh, okay, no baking it.
I mean, if you want to make an apple pie, it will make an apple pie. But why do that when you could have every meal?
Hmm. Can you still? Is there other ways to cook it, just not baking?
As long as you don't get it too hot.
Okay. Maybe I should put it with the cold fruit then. Hmm. I'll have to think about this one. I think I'm ready to get started with the cooking though. I have some plans for these strange fruits.
Very good.
No, I just thought of the worst concept. Okay, so you know the Bon Appetit YouTube channel where the guy will he'll take a food and cook
Chris?
it every. No, not Chris.
Oh.
He takes like eggs and chicken and or steak and salmon.
A meal.
Cooks it every different. Yeah,
Okay.
I have some thoughts about this series, but we'll not go into that right now.
Okay.
Oh god,
Anyway,
it's so
just-
funny though.
It's really funny, but I have some salt about it.
When he
Anyway,
cooked a potato in a car engine.
Oh, that got me.
Yeah! It's one of the 50 ways.
I love showing Christine these videos because her reactions are always amazing.
I had some choice
I bet.
words last night. Anyway, just him with this Feywild apple.
Hmm.
Cooking it in like 5,000 different ways.
Yeah. That'd be
Okay.
interesting.
So I
Elven
think
meal.
I think I'm ready to start cooking now.
Okay. What you gonna make?
I'm gonna make. I guess I'll do mostly basic stuff, but with like the meat and bread and stuff, just some like nice basic dishes. But I'm gonna get a little bit creative with like the exotic planar fruits.
Sure.
I want to take the rock avocado and the super spicy habanero peach,
Mhm.
and I want to try to like make almost like a guacamole out of it.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Maybe put it with some like I don't know if crackers exist in this world, but
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
crackers or toast or something.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then I want
Yes,
to
and then
take,
fry them.
and I almost want to make like a fruit sorbet ice cream with like the ice fruit, the celestial fruit, and then like mix in the Feywild fruit to give it like a complex aftertaste.
Also, I'm calling your exotic avocado toast rock vacabanero toast. Rock
What?
vacabanero.
I accept this. That's
Alright.
probably a name Jeff would give it.
Yep. Just throw all the words together. Be German
Yeah, and
about
then-
it.
Yeah, and I'll take the ice fruit, the celestial fruit, and the Feywild fruit, make like a really delicious and interesting fruit ice cream sorbet sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
And that will be what I serve to everyone.
Go ahead and make a. You're kind of inspired by these new ingredients, and you're really getting into like your groove of cooking. So go ahead and make a performance check with advantage for me. And I believe
Cool,
we said
because-
you have proficiency with these.
Yeah, I got proficiency on cooking checks. That's a 19.
All right.
Hey.
You whip up a damn good meal, and like the Ulvari are shocked because they haven't had anything this good in quite a long time.
Aw.
It's delicious. Like everybody is just raving over the creative use of flavor and texture, and the way the different dishes complement each other, and just they love it.
I'm interested to know what Kayana thinks of the plainer fruits in particular.
You actually have a vague sense of recognition for the dish that has the Feywild apple in it.
Okay. Like it's at the tip of my tongue and I can't place it.
Yeah, like you get a flash of like your parents' faces from your recent vision, and so you get like a strong feeling that it's definitely from home.
Mm-hmm.
But like you can't remember any specific instances where you would have had it, just like a very strong sense memory.
Just a contemplative look at this dish. Like, huh.
Okay. Oh,
Probably you would see a sign of recognition on my face.
good. That's good.
Seems familiar. I don't know how to place it. That's all.
Okay.
Something coming back to you, Kayana? Travian asks.
Oh, no, it's just... I don't know. I don't know quite how to place it. It's like right in the back of my mind. But something feels familiar about this.
It is, I believe, from your homeworld.
I suppose that would explain it then.
Try taking a bite and thinking of your favorite food. And as you do so...
It's gonna be a bug, isn't it? It's gonna be a bug,
Yes!
isn't it?
It is!
Yep.
Chicken nuggets.
Cricket nuggets. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you think of your favorite savory insect, the flavor kind of morphs into it in your mouth, and you can kind of actually, since you are Eladrin and you have kind of a deeper connection to this, the texture changes for you too.
Oh, fuck yeah! Transform
Gushers.
fruits! Does it get like the chitinous like?
A little bit of like the crunch with the flesh underneath. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, this is nice.
Alrighty. So Jeff and Ilya, as you all are training with the Ulvari, kind of sparring and practicing your fighting maneuvers, I'd like each of you to roll a... I don't feel like it's a skill check. Roll a pair of d20s and give me both results.
Okay.
7 and 13.
Okay.
I got 12 and 2.
Okay.
Ooh.
I thought you were gonna beat me by 1 on both of those.
Not this time.
I would have been mad pissed because that's literally our characters.
Yep.
You got him this time.
Awesome. All right. So Ilya, you're kind of picking up a little bit more than Jeff is from them because their fighting style is not dissimilar to the way you were taught at the monastery or the temple abbey.
Awesome.
It has some elements of like cleric fighting to it. And you can kind of pick up on this and kind of pick up on the threads and imitate that in a way that is, reasonably accurate. Jeff, from your more martial background, it takes you a little bit longer, but you're still able to kind of see the touch points between their fighting style and yours because, after all, there's only so many ways a human body can move that make sense. So you're kind of, you could still draw inspiration from it and kind of meld it with your own. But you don't pick up on it quite as quickly as your friend. Both of you, however, do gain a little bit of a boon from this training. And that will be specific to the way you train with them, as we just determined. So, Ilya, yours, as you kind of keying into the more, like, clerical and more, like, you could almost call them like venerative aspects of the fighting style. Like, yes, it's still martial and offensive, or offensive. I shouldn't say offensive because that sounds like the martial and
you learn how to
offensive.
insult them.
But you cast Mage Hand and flip off every single one of your enemies before you cut them down.
Wait, no, I cast Mage Hand and I poke their eyes out.
Oh,
Nice.
Like cartoon style, like ding!
But you kind of key into the more like religious undertones of their fighting style, and as you're doing this, you gain a bit of insight into how the Ulvari were able to conquer their foes in sort of one-on-one situations. I hesitate to call this a feat because it's quite a minor thing.
Yeah.
But you gain the ability to, when fighting a foe of a chaotic alignment, you can use your bonus action to let's say twice a day. You can use your bonus action twice a day to add 1 to your attack rolls against that foe.
Okay.
Always remember to ask for enemy alignment from now on.
Yeah.
the anti-Wartok feat.
Wait.
Oh, I can suplex Wartok.
You could do that.
Pretty sure you could already do that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I can do it harder now.
Wait.
Oh baby.
Mm,
So Jeff,
Do
uh-huh.
I say it?
No.
Do it.
Yes.
Do
yep,
it.
do it.
Harder, Daddy.
There
There
we
we
go.
I hate it.
All right. Let's. All
Alright, so Jeff, as you're training with them, you're keying in more towards the tactical maneuvers that they're making, kind of how they work in groups, and a little bit more of like the overall workings of their fighting. Not just how they take out enemies one by one, but how they would move overall to strike down a foe's force.
Mm-hmm.
And this doesn't actually get you anything right now, but when you learn, when you go back to the Luminaires Academy, you feel like there's definitely something there that you can kind of combine the two together and get something pretty cool out of it.
Okay.
Mechanically speaking,
Teamwork.
one of the maneuvers that you can learn from the Luminaires, you can augment with what you've learned here, and that will make it better.
Cool.
And please, if you wouldn't mind, send me that as a note so that I remember to update the maneuver I had written down.
Okay. Cool. I'll do that.
Thank you. Alrighty. So, Kayana and Wartok, you all spend these weeks in the library researching what you can about the history of the Ulvari Empire and their lore, speaking to the librarians and getting what you can, as well as researching your spells. I will not make you make spell crafting checks for this, as you are among those who can cast the spells pretty much willy-nilly, and quite a lot of them, and with a very deep understanding of magic. So you just succeed on your checks automatically in this situation. That will not always be the case when you're at the Secretarium, because in the future there will be fewer there, some of them will be out roving. But when you have all of these resources at your disposal, yeah, you can definitely just, blaze through them, especially because they're both 4th level spells, I believe?
Reincarnate is 5th.
5th, okay. But yeah, so you go right through them, and yeah, they have plenty of works on those two, so you can kind of get the theory behind both of them as you're crafting them and trying them out each day, and no problem, you complete both of those spells. Wartok, it is the first time that anyone has cast that spell, and as you do so, you kind of there's this kind of intake of breath from the researchers who are watching you as they behold this like new formation of energy come into the world. It's also a little bit creepy. But you also hear just no vision to go with it, just, well, very impressive. I haven't seen that one before. You figured out a new way to use your powers. Well done.
Thank you.
The researcher's like, you're welcome?
But yeah, yeah. See, it's good. Yep.
It's really an impressive spell. I mean, huh. Very interesting. Can I touch it?
I wouldn't recommend it, but do it.
Alright, cool.
No.
Whoa!
Whoa, man!
His
It's
more-
like my life force is being sucked right out of me. Cool.
Cool, bro.
He's more fascinated than he is mortified. He's just like, that was awesome.
I lost a part of my soul. Wow.
Yay.
Awesome.
They're
Dude, you
used to
should
it.
totally try it.
Cool. I'm getting rid of their souls, and she's trying to get it back.
But okay, so what you learn about the world. So, Kayana, you wanted to learn kind of a high level of how their tech works.
Yeah, I guess I kind of got that Artificer's Bible.
Yeah, but it is a bit too heavy of a tome for you to go through.
That's true, yeah.
So as you're kind of looking through books, and you find a few, especially with Wartok's help, kind of figuring out titles of the books and being like, oh, this one might be useful, and reading through it, it's kind of, they're all quite dense for the most part. They don't really have very many beginner-friendly texts among them. In the one that you do find kind of talks about the important role of a mentor in the beginning stages of learning this. And doesn't go like it kind of says that like it's kind of defies like a codified study, but it does go out of its way to kind of give an overall view. And as you're kind of reading this, one of the librarians comes up behind you and says, "So you're interested in the Sure, let's make more Eastern European. So you're interested in the artificery of ours, yeah?"
Just kind of the general overall concept of it, yeah.
I can do that. It works in 3 parts, and each part requires its own. This is not Eastern European, but I still like it.
I'm just writing everything they say down.
Requires its own specialized artificer. There is the Vesselier, the Soul Weaver,
Soul Weaver?
Soul Render, and Rune Weaver. The Soul Render is the one who provides their own life force to power the invention. The Rune Weaver is the one who devises the arcane symbols and runes that will channel the power into its desired form. The Vesselier is the artificer in charge of constructing the vessel, the mechanism that will hold the Soulstone and work its power. This can take the form of the orbs that you see cleaning about the secretarium, or the I wouldn't call them droids. What would they call them? I can't think of a better word right now. So droids. The droids that you might see fetching objects in the gardens or the labs, or something more complex like the tank that you fought, or the various siege weapons that the Ulvari had implemented in the Endless War so many years ago.
So all of them have a body, mind, and soul aspect to them.
Indeed.
Fascinating.
That is indeed why the challenges are themed as such. In our entire history, there's only ever been one who could do all 3. He was a great champion, known as simply the Hammer. He was one of the most powerful of the Ulvar ever to exist, and his artificery was unmatched, as was his prowess in battle. He was, as you might know, one of the heroic decad that you are seeking to emulate.
Hmm,
Or
I guess so.
perhaps, surpass.
I don't know. We're just kind of following their trail, more or less.
Well, I'm sure you'll come into your own.
Ethan, oh my god. Okay.
Wartok, are there any particular questions that you would like to research, or shall I go down the list of Kayana's?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. So, you also wanted to know about the Feywild.
Yes.
So you don't find any books on the Feywild, in fact. You scour the library for quite some time, and even with Wartok's help reading the titles, just nothing captures your fancy. So eventually, you decide to go to Travian and ask him about it. And he looks at you and says, the Feywild. Well, the Ulvari tended not to go to that plane very often. It tended to be, well, like your people, chaotic in nature.
Yes.
The Ulvari were not... It's not to say we didn't like it, but it wasn't our most well-suited inhabitants. So...
You are beings of law.
Indeed. But in normal Plano situations, as was mostly common knowledge at the time before the scouring, places of great magic and mystery, and especially at transitional times, sunrise or sunset, the barrier between the material plane and the Feywild would weaken. That was typically the common wisdom way of entering the Feywild.
Mm-hmm.
However, with the planar rending, I'm unsure if that is still the case, or if it's simply maybe even impossible to reach, or very nearly so. I have not tried, nor do I think any have. You, having come from there, is probably an indication that it's not impossible, for if the connection goes one way, it would stand to reason that it could go another.
I think there were... Let's call it special circumstances that I don't think...
You might need the help of a god to get back, indeed.
Yeah.
But not impossible. Just very difficult. As far as the inhabitants thereof, the Feywild attempted to remain
Furious
neutral.
scribbling, by the way.
Yeah. The Feywild attempted to remain somewhat neutral in the conflict with Hronglathor, but not all of them were successful. Some of the denizens of that plane succumbed to the chaotic power that Hronglathor wove, and they became something of a strike force. They were known as the Unseelie Court.
Okay.
They took on a strange, wraith-like countenance and struck from the shadows in evening and night. However, your presence here and the fact that you are not a buzzing shadow being likely points to the fact that either the Feywild never fully succumbed or that it has begun to recover. In either case, a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that's all I really have to offer you.
No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you.
Alright, you also wanted to know about... Okay, we're gonna go through a bunch of stuff. So,
Yeah, that's fine.
and it is, what, 10:30? So we're running up against
Yeah.
time here, too. So let's wrap things up relatively quickly. So, jumping out of the roleplay bit a little bit, and I'll just give you what you find.
Okay.
So, you asked about nitty-gritty details of the scouring, how it happened, how the gods were involved, and the nature of the spell they used. This is a little bit, because it happened so close to the end, there are books about the war leading up to the Scouring, but it just, like, the moment of and, like, the exact circumstances, just no one had time to write it out. So you can get some sort of information about the war and the involvement of the gods, and sort of rumors of a spell, but they were just rumors because no one could know the full details except for the Decad themselves. So
Okay.
what you kind of get are that for about 70 years before the Scouring, this huge war was waging with Hronglothor versus, at first, all of the good aligned gods. And it was kind of, well, good and or lawful, I should say. Anything that went neutral or chaotic and evil, like that kind of half of the square, started out actually siding with Hronglothor because they believed that they would gain some power should he win. They thought that, they would basically ascend to the power of the other gods, kind of absorb them, and have the size of the Pantheon. But as the war went on, more and more of the gods on Hronglothor's side defected. And these were not only gods, but also devils and demons. So just demons. Devils were decidedly against Hronglothor from the first.
Okay.
That is important to note.
Yeah, because Hronglothor is chaotic, they are lawful, even though
Yes.
both are evil.
Yes, but the lawful aspect of the devils made them abhor what Hronglothor was trying to do. Which was effectively unravel the multiverse. Just turn it back into cosmic soup. So Hronglothor was fighting this war against basically all of the gods by the end. Because more and more of them were defecting, realizing that Hronglothor would never, offer them any place in what he saw as the end game. Not only that, but not a few demon lords were destroyed during the war, and one god. As you and Wartok are reading this, Wartok, it strikes you as odd because it's a name you hear routinely. Malar. Malar is gone. Completely and utterly. Just dead. No longer exists. Hronglothor wiped him from existence. Completely and utterly. Wartok, you notice something interesting too. The descriptions of Malar have him as an evil god, typically associated with the chaotic and dark parts of nature. Whereas in this world, in Elven and what you've grown up hearing, Malar is a god of the hunt, a bounteous god, neutral at worst. Prayed to by hunters and anyone who would wish to survive in the wilderness, they go to Malar, or what they think is Malar.
Okay.
For the nature of the spell, you get relatively little until you ask some of the Ulvari, and that elderly Ulvari man.
Oh yes.
He
Grandpa.
comes. Yes. You ask him as you're directed to by a few of the others, and he kind of nods and says, "Yes, the spell that was used. It was not solely of mortal origin. The Decad had a hand in it, but most of their power went to weaving the spell around things, being sure to exclude that which needed to be excluded, and directing it once the planar rending was complete. The main force of the spell and its design was that of the gods. The idea was to wipe out records, building in a failsafe or two. Specifically, that the language Eltaran, would not be wiped from writing, but that it would be wiped from living memory.
Mm.
All other writing would be abolished completely. In addition, the memories of those who were alive would be wiped completely. It was discussed for some time whether or not it should be complete, because, well, that is a lot to do to a person. Make them forget their identity and everything. But in the end, it was decided that this was necessary, for any amount of knowledge that was retained could lead to a remembrance of facts best left unknown. It was the idea of the gods that the fewer people knew about Hronglathor and his evil, the less likely Hronglathor would be to have an anchor to grasp onto, a hook to wrap his tendrils through to regain a foothold in the world. The Ulvari, particularly the 24 before, now 23 of us, were chosen to be omitted. We were put in this secretarium and sealed off from the world, given our charge to devise these challenges and await the ones who would overcome them, and left. We had some contact with the gods that we worshipped before, and we were certainly not poorly off. We have our ingenuity and our knowledge, and were able to make perfectly fine lives for ourselves, but we had to be secluded, because if the world were allowed to know what we knew too early, it could mean their undoing. It could bring Hronglathor back too soon. So the spell was woven to seclude that which should not be known, and protect that which needed to be saved.
Okay.
You wanted to know about the Sanctum, and why it would be closer to the gods or other planes in the world outside.
Yes, so I guess that kind of ties into that.
Mm-hmm. It also ties into what you felt when you tried to talk to the Raven Queen after the barrier began to be let down. The fact that the Sanctum was protected from the Scouring, and the people within had a strong memory of the gods, that memory and that faith actually increases the gods' influence. They do gain some power from the strength of their faithful. That is a source of power for gods, although it is not the only one. It certainly bolsters them, which means that gods with a larger following are more powerful, and since the gods had a pretty strong following amongst the Ulvari, because they were literally a theological oligarchy, or a theocratic oligarchy, sorry. They
I know what you meant.
just were very in tune with the gods, and so the gods were more there. Secondarily, however, what you kind of find out from reading a little bit more into it and asking around, the Sanctum was kind of placed at the nexus of this small meeting point between Elven and the world outside. The power that the gods do exert in Elven is kind of channeled through this area. As you've kind of come to understand, it's closely guarded, and it's not a lot, but since it was right in this area, that also, kept the Secretarium a little bit more in tune. It is why you were able to have that vision of your parents. Let's see. What else? Ancient Forgotten Spells is basically when Travian was talking to you about resurrection, or reincarnation. Resurrection?
Yeah, reincarnation.
Reincarnation, yeah. Right, resurrection is the higher level one. Yeah, so that was basically that talk what was it like? How do they live? You do get some like, so you had the Utopia talk before, and since you're in an Ulvari library, you don't really get too much of an opposing perspective. It is all pretty much like, this was fucking great. Like, until the war, the world was amazing.
Yeah, and until the world started burning down, the world was amazing.
Yeah, and it very much was kind of just a tipping point. Like, it wasn't a slow decline. It was like, ah, fuck.
Yeah. Man, these fuckers needed more balance in their lives.
So you kind of go and Wartok, and you look for just information about big historical events and historical figures. And you find a little bit of a timeline of sorts as you're kind of piecing together bits and pieces from different books. And what you get, and Wartok, this is mostly as you're reading along, because you're kind of reading aloud to Kyanna, picking out the choice bits.
Story time!
The founding of the Ulvari Empire occurred in 1524 PS. It's not really denoted that way in the book because they wouldn't have had a notion of the scouring, so meh. But you kind of piece together this timeline, and talking to a few of the Ulvari, you get this, like, how they've been talking about it. So they have the Scour Reckoning, and then they have pre-scouring time. So 1524 years before the Scouring was the founding of the Ulvari Empire. And it was founded by Granihl Ulvar, Granihl. He began the empire by leading the clan's army to secure most of, all of Erevar's territory and a large swath of northern Dane. He did this by the use of the clan's not insignificant military prowess, but also by weaving that together with his royal artificers, which were initially not from within the Ulvari clan. However, as you read further and further into the history, the Ulvari had a great knack for artificery and kind of picked it up from these outsiders very quickly and perfected the science on their own. The next major key event you get is an era called the Pax Zakia, and that's Zaakia, Zakia. That lasted from 1394 to 1301 pre-scouring. The era was named for Zakia Ulvar, who was, by all accounts, just an utterly peerless leader. And this peace was very much because of her. She was able to continue expanding the empire, but under peaceful terms of negotiation, actually convincing settlements and peoples to come under the rule of the empire such that their quality of life might be improved. The empire saw a good bit of expansion during this period, but not explosive growth. At the end of that era of peace was the blessing of the Ulvar. This event was the day before Zakia's death. It happened literally while she was on her deathbed. She and her children were the first of the Ulvari to become what the Ulvari are now. Prior to this, the patterns and markings on their skin was very much normal to Goliath, the Goliath race. But this blessing is what kind of morphed those into these intricate knotwork designs that you see upon the Ulvari today. It also increased their lifespans so that the Ulvari now lived to 130 very often, and the eldest of them were knocking on 150. So, effectively, on the day before her death, Zakia and her children were blessed with long life and this inherent noble distinction by the gods Lathander, Ilmater, Denir, Eldath, Torm, and Tyr. The next one that you find is Wyrek's Discovery, which was in 1274 PS. His Wyrek's Steelmark was noted for being the only human to make it onto the list of like very important events that you saw. Every other one was a Goliath. One of them was not an Ulvar, but every other one was a Goliath at least. Wyrek, however, discovered a way to make planetary and planar travel considerably easier. He created this kind of particular type of like plane resonant portal that kind of, much like the Soulstones, kind of tune to the energies around them, tunes to basically the resonant frequency of a plane. And by resonating with it on that frequency, allows for a much more smooth travel between planes. This kind of prompts a much more quick spreading of the Ulvari Empire to the inner planes. So, the elemental planes and a couple of the like lower celestial and abyssal ones, not abyssal, but just nearby planes, not so far away, but decent distance. In 1100 PS was the beginning of the Endless War.
Mm-hmm.
It followed hot on the heels of Valgia Woundreaver's assassination. Valgia Woundreaver is not an Ulvar Goliath. The Iconungar, this group of tribes that had been heretofore kind of popping up in the history of the Ulvar, but not prominently, took credit for the assassination. No one could ever confirm who had killed the Archbishop, but seeing as the Iconungar were ready and willing to take credit for it, the Ulvar had their willing scapegoat. And
It's fine. ISIS did it. They said so. Time to go kill ISIS.
This assassination followed just weeks on the heels of a massive peace treaty that Valgia had signed to ensure a second era of peace, but instead it sparked a 1,000-year war.
Whoa.
Most of the remaining tomes deal with this war. The Iconungar kind of, fighting the Ulvar at each point where the Ulvari are attempting to expand their domain, and they are typically presented as a chaotic counterbalance to the Ulvar's lawful reign.
Mm-hmm.
Over 500 years, from 600 to 100 PS, was the era known as the Conjoining of the Planes. Started off by Algan Ulvar, one of the first kind of conquering emperors as opposed to the more peaceful expansion from before. Pursued the Iconungar as they used stolen Ulvari technology to hop from plane to plane. The Iconungar were attempting to preempt the Ulvari's spreading of influence and go to these planes and sow their own seeds before the Ulvari could do so. The Ulvari followed them, and at each point, massive battles would erupt and the war would continue. Literally 1,000 years later, actually 1,070? Yeah. So 30 years before the Scouring, 1,070 years after the beginning of the Endless War, the chaos from this conflict between these two great powers had spread so far across the multiverse and consumed so many worlds that the chaos itself gained a form. That form was dubbed Hronglathor. And this force of nature began obliterating everything in its path, unmaking it. At first, people had thought that perhaps it was a divine retribution, but it was very soon made clear that the divines had nothing to do with it. They were fighting amongst themselves about would they, the more neutral, chaotic, and on the evil side gods were going to join him, whereas the other gods were all utterly opposed and attempting to thwart him. But even their power would prove not enough, as you then get into stories about the heroic Decad, and then accounts become a little fuzzier because there wasn't a lot of time for writing when the entire universe was at war.
That's fair, yeah.
Lore drop.
Yeah. This is
And
giving me a lot to think about.
yeah, I'll give you all a bit of a write-up, don't worry. I might actually just
Sure.
send you my notes.
That's also
Spark
fair
notes.
too.
Yeah, I'll probably just send you my notes. That'll probably be the easiest. Also, eventually there'll be World Anvil articles for this shit.
That's fine too.
All right. So, yeah,
Books.
lots of
Um,
books. Is there anything anybody else wanted to do? Besides, like, Wartok, you didn't really get anything special. Is there something you feel a need to do?
No. That's all I can think of.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we read a lot. I researched a spell.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
We've been library
I got-
buddies for the past 2 weeks.
Very
I got a
true.
bracelet.
You did most of the reading, so that's good.
Yeah.
Do you want to try out your bracelet?
Oh, no. Squid Buddy's been with me the whole time.
Oh, cool.
Good buddy.
He's
Squidward's just
flipping
been on your
pages.
shoulder.
Well, he's
This is
trying to
the-
flip pages. But that's really in his.
This
I'll-
is the most powerful friendship bracelet in the world.
The duration is only 1 minute, but I'll allow it.
You just keep resummoning it.
Hey, Squidward. Hey, Squidward.
Oh god.
Squidward.
Oh no. No. Excellent.
Should I roll my therapy checks, or should we do that off screen?
Ah, yes. No, go ahead
Roll
and roll
10
them.
d20 right now.
Okay. That's really cool. That's a 22.
Nice.
How many should I roll? One for each week?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a vibe check. Okay. And then that one is a dirty 20.
So 22 and 20.
Yeah.
All right. I forgot the mechanic for this. Were we just saying 10% every time you got a success?
I think so.
All right, you get another 20%,
Boom, baby.
which I think brings you up to 60 or 50.
62.
62. There. Oh, that's right, because the first one or two we did like a roll d12 or something. Yeah. Alrighty, cool. So you were at 62% unafraid of fire. As you're microdosing LSD or Nightshade.
Hey man,
Same
you
thing.
do what you gotta do.
The Ulvari kind of
Lord.
like just don't disturb you when you're in these trances. You actually get kind of a sense of like recognition from some of them. Like they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it.
Like, oh yeah, drugs are cool.
Something like that. Okay. All right, Wartok, I'm gonna give you something fun anyway.
Okay.
One of the nights that you don't sleep,
Tends to happen.
you're kind of outside in the snow a little bit, kind of playing with the frozen water, and in your little. I know we've said control water can't work on snow, but I'm gonna say for this scene it can. You're just kind of playing around with the snow, reflecting on what you found out, what you've learned, and the trials you've been through with your friends. And the water you splash in front of you briefly becomes not the shape that you were going for. You see instead kind of I hate to describe it like this, but like a curved TV panel in front of you.
Okay.
And it some of it kind of bubbles outward so that you can see the face of Ambition, whose real name you learned, didn't you?
Yes. I
It
did.
was Steve.
Fuck off.
Why is it always Steve? That's like your
It's
go-to.
literally always, even when it's not on camera, it's always fucking Steve.
Alright, it's not fucking Steve. It's just Steve.
Hey, we don't know that man.
I mean, true. What?
Mordecai.
Is that it? It's on my notes at home, so I don't have it.
Jimothy.
James. Jimothy.
No, Mordecai was the. Actually, Mordecai was in this group's session.
What?
Oh shoot, it's not there. It's in
Jake.
these notes.
State Farm.
Hacked
Todd
the
Howard.
insurance company.
Todd.
Todd Howard.
Oh my
His
god.
ambition.
No.
No way.
No. Anything but that.
Have you guys seen that video where it's like
Yes.
Todd Howard? Yeah, you have, but it's Todd Howard
Yes.
at like all the E3s and tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies.
Oh,
That's awesome.
I love that video. I'm gonna find it and link it.
Whenever that song comes on the radio at work, that video is what I think of. I want you to know that.
Okay, looking into YouTube, typing Todd Howard, it's the second thing. It's like Todd Howard and then Todd Howard, sweet little lies.
That's amazing. Fuck, where are you?
Right here.
Ah, yes, Vedraven.
that's right.
Yeah, Vedraven was his name.
I
Sorry,
was so close.
don't know why. Yes,
Yeah.
it has a V in it, just like Steve.
I did it. Called it.
All right, so you see the face of Vedraven kind of float up before you, and he says to you, "Is this her?" And the face fades, and you see kind of bubbling to the surface again a caravan. In the lead of it is a woman with ashen hair draping from a cloak that is hiding her face. She travels with a few other people. Most of them are like her, cowled, and you cannot see their faces. But they are all kind of walking before a horse-drawn wagon. And you can kind of see the wagon moving across this liquid screen, if you will. And as it passes you, you can see in the back of that caravan the visage of a girl. This one is not wearing a cowl. She's kind of sitting at the back with her feet kind of dangling from it, and her skin is blue, the color of the sea. And it looks quite a lot like Aqualaria. Older than you remember, but still familiar. There's a few other folks in the back of the caravan with her, or in the back of the wagon with her. None of the others seem familiar to you, but there's no mistaking it.
Are any of the others also water ganassi?
Not water ganassi, but you do see one fire ganassi.
Okay. Okay. Just stare at it. Where is this?
He kind of... Can he show you a map? He can probably show you a map. You see the vision in the water kind of flutter and then bubble back up into a approximation of Elven's landscape. He kind of pokes out a bit of water where you are in kind of the, I guess see what's up here, the northeastern corner of the continent. And then you can kind of see the Great Darren River that runs between Erevar and Dane. And he puts another blip in like a kind of bubble that emerges from the landscape on the southern side of that border, and somewhat to the east, like kind of close to... Where have you all been that would be close to this?
Well, that would
Like if you drew... Go ahead.
Would it perhaps be this?
Let me open Discord. It is not. It is to the south of that.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
It is south of the Great Darren River.
Okay.
In fact, if you drew a line directly south from Limna, that is where it would be.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the face comes back. That's her.
Yeah. I believe so.
She travels with a caravan. The woman who leads it is a devotee of the Raven Queen. Her name is Elena.
Okay. Okay.
And that is where we'll end this night's session.
Ah, no, he.
If you have another question, you can ask it.
No, we'll stop it. That works.
And the water goes
everyone
back to
wait.
the form that you were intending it to be originally. Probably a squid.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Your squid bodyguard just reforms waves.
Alrighty, well thank you for joining us tonight, everybody. This was another episode of Beyond D&D, and may all your rolls be lucky.